The maddened giant roared as it wielded a splintered plank from the wreckage of a ship, lashing out with wild, sweeping arcs. Reanimated corpses, Fun's disposable foot soldiers, were no match for its raw power. It hurled bodies aside like rag dolls, smashing 24 into broken heaps of bone and meat in seconds. Even those corpses that managed to climb onto the giant's back, clawing, biting, hacking, made no lasting damage. Their weapons, dulled and rusted, couldn't pierce its thick hide. They were torn apart, flung like scraps into the sea. Fun's plan had crumbled. He had hoped to use the undead as a distraction to pin down the 20-odd priests, giving Woolman and Haywood an opening to strike. But the tactic had collapsed in the face of brute force. They were hopelessly outmatched. Desperate pirates on the deck tried to assist, firing flintlock pistols down at the priests. But the musket balls pinged harmlessly off their reinforced armor, barely scratching the surface. Yet despite their failure in direct combat, the corpses had served one vital purpose. They had bought time. Woolman and Haywood had maneuvered into position. More importantly, Fun's trump card, Full Macking's artillery, was ready. He didn't need to use the underworld stone tablet after all. The end was near. The giant, though still raging, was barely holding together. The previous artillery volley had left it grievously wounded. One more strike would end it. Although the cannons couldn't pivot horizontally, it didn't matter. 18 loaded barrels were already aimed. If fired in unison, at least one would land true. Fire! Fun's voice rang out like a cold bell. The cave roared to life. 18 cannons belched smoke and flame, launching heavy chain shot that screamed through the air. The impact rocked the sea cliff, pulverizing stone and sending shards flying. The cavern walls trembled under the force. One of the chain rounds struck its mark. The spinning projectile tore through the giant's chest with horrific force, blasting out chunks of flesh and bone. An enormous hole, nearly a meter wide, gaped in the titan's torso, revealing the sea behind it. Its spine was shattered, organs torn loose. The upper body sagged sideways, barely hanging on. And still impossibly it moved. With a final, thunderous bellow, the dying giant lifted the plank once more and crushed the last of the undead under its weight. But Fun was ready. With a raised hand, he summoned swirling tendrils of violet mist. They spun into fine threads and gave birth to a storm of black ravens, each one forged from spellcraft and honed for slaughter. The flock surged toward the giant. It swung its weapon in a frenzy, but the ravens were relentless. They darted into the wounds, pecking deeper, swarming through the hole in its chest, ripping at the heart within. The giant's death cry was long and terrible. Seconds later, it fell still. The ravens, as if obeying a silent command, dissolved into black mist and flowed into the lifeless corpse. They filled the veins and bones, weaving a new flesh, black and corrupted. Its eyes glowed with eerie violet light. What rose from the beach was no longer a giant. It was a monstrous, undead behemoth. "Seal off the trestle," Finn commanded coldly. "Don't let any of them retreat to the shore." Woolman, stunned moments ago, now understood. The god couldn't be allowed to return, not when this was walking in its place. Boom, boom, boom. The reanimated giant smashed through the last defenders with ease, splattering flesh and steel alike as it sprinted toward the trestle under Fun's control. "Fall back. Get away from the docks." Marcus shouted to the priests, still calm despite the chaos. But Fun wouldn't allow that. Though his physical prowess rivaled that of the warrior Micah, his spiritual mastery made him even more dangerous. From his side, a phantom clone emerged, an exact copy, born of spell energy. The specter raised its hand, summoning 3 swirling spouts of seawater, thick as tree trunks. As the spirals funneled into its palm, the water compressed, frozen into a massive sword of dark blue crystal, harder than iron, sharp as divine judgment. Fun's phantom stepped lightly through the air, floating behind the priests. He had no intention of killing them. He only needed to delay. Frost bloomed beneath his ghostly steps, covering the trestle in ice. As the chill crept beneath the priest's feet, Icy tendrils slithered up their armored legs, locking joints, weakening stances. The priest struggled forward, slowed, but not stopped. But that was enough. The phantom struck, sweeping the massive sword with precision. The brittle armor cracked. One stroke knocked a row of priests backward, buying Finn even more time. Woolman joined in, cleaving through the rear line with a giant axe. Together, they stalled the entire priest formation. The undead giant reached the trestle. Finn orchestrated the battlefield like a conductor. His phantom harassed the priests. The giant crushed their front. And from above, the pirates opened fire again. "Shoot!" Finn barked. Muskets rang out. Finn himself raised his arquebus, firing a shot directly at Marcus. Bang! 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 Smoke engulfed the deck. The reanimated giant stormed the trestle, tossing defenders into the sea like ragdolls. Maces and flails bounced off its rotten hide. It needed no weapons. It was destruction incarnate. In 5 seconds, it had broken through. The holy warriors, the finest brought by Marcus, were gone, drowned, or destroyed. Marcus now stood alone, an old man, blind, clutching a scripture in one hand. He faced the infamous BlackSail pirates, surrounded and unarmed. And yet he didn't flinch. A final volley of musket fire erupted, but by some miracle or some divine force, not a single shot struck him. Finn frowned. Something was wrong. This man, alone, cornered, had no fear. Giants, after all, are mindless beasts, Marcus said quietly. Outside the cave, Archer had arrived with Lee Sight and his company. They'd traveled through rain and mud, soaked and weary. Now, they stared into the mouth of hell. The sight inside was worse than Blue Bay. 18 cannons, a battlefield of shredded corpses, a towering, undead colossus. Finn had devastated the Holy Sea's forces, but one figure still stood. Marcus, alone, but not powerless. He raised his hand. From the scattered dead, swords flew into the air, pulled by an unseen force. Their blades broke, leaving only hilts and fragments. He gripped a single hilt, and the rest twisted together into a spiraling blade of iron. As Marcus began to chant a silent prayer, the battlefield stilled. Roots erupted from the ground, coiling around the feet of the undead giant. Marcus swung the spiral blade. A howling vortex of energy exploded outward, the spiral sword wind. The 5-meter monstrosity disintegrated in a flash of silver wind. Bone, sinew, flesh shredded and compressed into dust. The creature vanished without leaving a trace. Annihilated. The coastline was a graveyard. Hundreds of mangled corpses littered the shore, rivers of blood soaking into the wet sand. Outside the mouth of the cave, the storm howled with fury. Rain lashed down in sheets. Thunder cracked like cannon fire, and lightning split the heavens apart. Among the wreckage, broken rockets fired by BlackSail's first mate had ignited the abandoned hulls of half-destroyed ships. Flames leapt into the sky. Rags, crates, and dried planks burned with searing heat. Sparks drifted on the wind, setting the cave aglow with a hellish, flickering light. And now, only one man remained between the BlackSails and the open sea. But that man was Marcus. Lee Sight felt it in his bones, a crawling sense of dread. The scene before him looked less like a battlefield and more like the final stage of a boss fight. Corpses strewn across a wide, open beach, flames roaring against the backdrop of crashing waves and lightning, and a stack of talismans that looked like it belonged in a cursed RPG. Marcus stood motionless at the center of it all, an old man with dry, colorless hair, his clouded eyes completely blind, a metal jaw scarred with cracks. His face had long forgotten what a smile looked like. But he stood straight as a blade, spiral sword humming in hand, his robes soaked by rain but untouched by fear. Finn glanced toward Lee Sight with a rare look of unease. Even after all they'd done, after flattening the coastline with artillery and raising a giant corpse, this was the real problem. "I'm a priest of the eternal sect," Marcus said. "It is not my place to draw blood. But circumstances have made that unavoidable. To commune with the Dragon Lord required a pure mind, free from violence and bloodshed. But his allies had failed. There was no one left to stand between him and the tide. The BlackSails dismounted, preparing to board and set sail. Their horses would be left behind. The sea was calling. Marcus, though blind, saw everything through the flow of magic around him. He sensed Caruso's rage, Gloria's desperation, and the demonic aura radiating from the girl among them. Then his senses caught something sharp and dangerous, the cursed blade in Morrison's hand. "So, Zahak has fallen," Marcus said softly. As expected, too young, too proud. Even in a position of power, he died like a dog to pirates. His spiral sword continued to hum and twist in his hand. He had long known the truth. The empire had grown bloated and careless. Bureaucrats with false reputations had risen too high, too fast. Sword kings with half-baked apprentices. Arena champions who'd never faced real death. The imperial court had become a farce. Now fire rose around him. Rain hammered the cave mouth. And Marcus stood alone, surrounded by 12 of the BlackSail's best, hundreds of blood-soaked pirates, and 2 powerful foreign mercenaries. Sight clicked his tongue. This old man's really something. Even Zahak turned out to be unreliable. You think you're tougher than him? Huh? You've got 1 foot in the grave already. He smirked. I was going to be nice and let my boys show some mercy. Guess you're not interested. Marcus said nothing. He just tightened his grip on the spiral blade. Sight signaled Morrison. Without hesitation, Morrison kicked up a nearby hatchet from a corpse and hurled it with deadly force. It spun through the air, sharp, fast, precise, and veered off course. Fun's eyes narrowed. Now he understood why no bullet had touched Marcus before. An invisible force field surrounded him, subtly bending everything off target. The spiral sword itself was feeding the field with magic. Morrison muttered, now genuinely intrigued. Caruso, rising from his depression, pointed his thunder gun and fired. Marcus didn't flinch. He murmured a prayer to the Dragon Lord, not out of hope, out of respect. Wooden stakes shot up from the ground, shielding him. The electricity scorched the wood, but Marcus remained untouched. I know this man, Caruso growled. He was part of the old Aram witch-hunting division. The Empire didn't destroy them all. The Eternal Sect took them in. We can't beat him. We have to leave now. Sight's expression darkened. He'd heard the stories. The old Aram monarch, obsessed with immortality, had empowered a secret division to hunt witches, perform surveillance, and conduct brutal experiments. They answered only to the throne. And Marcus had been one of their best. Even after regime change, the church had protected what remained. Marcus raised his voice. Calm, unshaken. Surrender the girl. Let me take the demon. You could go back to being pirates. Sight laughed coldly. Are you giving me terms right now? Haywood may have been a tool, but the prize in her body? No way he'd give that up. Oaks lunged forward with a roar, brandishing a great sword the size of a door. Marcus turned his spiral sword. Despite his age and blindness, his senses were sharper than ever. The spiral blade met the strike, not with brute strength, but with precision. Sparks exploded. The blade sang. With one hand, Marcus spun the sword like a drill. The greatsword's edge warped under the pressure, glowing red-hot from friction, smoke pouring from its surface. Sight watched, stunned. How the hell is he doing this? Every weapon, Marcus whispered, has a weak point. It wasn't just his swordsmanship, it was magic. Arcane force infused the blade. Marcus was a magic swordsman of terrifying caliber, blending elemental control and telekinetic mastery into each movement. Suddenly, Oaks gasped. Invisible pressure had wrapped around his body, slamming into his chest and back. His armor cracked. He staggered. Marcus twisted his wrist and yanked with a flick of magic. Oak's enormous greatsword flew from his grasp, twisted in midair, and bent into a spiraled abomination of steel. Marcus caught it with one hand. A second spiral sword now spun in his grasp, radiating wind like a vortex. He slashed forward. The compressed air turned into a scything wave. Morrison unfurled his whip blade, spinning it wildly to block. The others, Ringsiety and his crew, scrambled, shielding themselves with iron weapons and reinforced gear. But not all were quick enough. More than 10 pirates were cleaved in half by the storm, blood misting through the charred air. The beach stank of scorched flesh and seawater. And still, the storm outside raged on. Then Marcus began to rise. He walked up into the air, his steps falling on invisible platforms of force, like climbing a staircase only he could see. Even emperors who slay dragons with their bare hands grow old. Time erodes all. Only eternity remains, he intoned. From beneath his feet, a forest erupted. Twisting roots and thick stakes burst from the ground, shooting forward like javelins, aimed straight at Lysight's group. Motherf! Lysight had seen enough. This wasn't just a tough enemy. This was the strongest monster they'd ever faced. BlackSail's entire legacy might end here because of one old man. Lysight had 3 core principles in life: be ruthless, be loyal, and never abandon your brothers. Now he had to stand by them. Everyone was here. There was no turning back. If a single mage could end them, they'd have nothing left. As the storm howled and flames danced behind him, Lysight bled from his palm. He thrust the tip of his sword into the wound, feeding it power. The Junlin sword wasn't just meant for blocking blows. It was about to draw blood.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
In the Western continent, magic extends into many categories, in addition to miscellaneous branches such as astrology, prophecy, magic pattern construction, psychic arrays, etc. The main methods used for real-time combat are divided into 3 categories. There are too many complicated and special methods to describe. The first category is arcane magic. The magician truly relies on his own wisdom and the experience laid by countless pioneers to figure out a specific set of thinking methods and combinations of magic materials and techniques to create magical effects through rituals. Most arcane users are atheists, advocating the objective laws of things, and are the mainstay against religious forces. The second category is spells. The casters of this category often have innate advantages, race or blood, or are infected with certain diseases, such as vampires produced by the ancient scarlet fever bacteria. Spells do not involve any materials and do not require any rituals. They can be performed naturally and are difficult to copy. The best examples are the high elves who live in the far west of the continent, or the almost extinct druids who live in the mountains and wilderness. Such races often serve their own ethnic groups' unique gods, and they also have ancestor worship customs. The third type is spells. Compared with the first 2, it is more focused on distorting reality from the level of consciousness and spirituality. With the help of some evil external forces, it is also more paradoxical than the other 2 types. It is forbidden to be mentioned in formal occasions, whether it is necromancy, curses, beheading, and black magic all seem to be somewhat inconsistent with universal values. The Warlock Council Tower Alliance does not prohibit the study of spells, but those who use spells for political purposes or crimes will be removed from the list and placed on the expedited list. Elemental magic is a relatively versatile technique. Whether it is the evocation of arcane spells, the elemental affinity inherent in the spell user, or the elemental rewriting of the spell user, the same solution can always be obtained through different processes. The miracles promoted by some religions are not within the scope of discussion. They are mysterious and mysterious. After all, these people already belong to the category of demonic people. Marcus was fascinated by arcane magic when he was young, and had an amazing talent for the arcane magic of using magic to control objects, making them hang in the air or move. But in other arts, Marcus showed slowness, so that he could only go to the dark side and only practice the arcana of object control. After a long period of study, Marcus has reached the pinnacle of this technique. He has got rid of the basis of only controlling objects and has expanded it. He can control the power more accurately and even do things that others can hardly imagine. This kind of covering force and wrapping force that was originally used to manipulate objects is condensed into a thinner and sharper force for cutting, or it is also used to carve stone statues. The precision in it cannot be copied by others. With the establishment of the witch-hunting secret service, young Marcus was quickly selected to become a part of the witch-hunting suppressive movement. At the beginning of this movement, many female spellcasters were indeed searched, and they were also extremely powerful. Marcus realized that he could not defeat these conjurers with his own ability, so he had to go further. Being slow to other spells, Marcus had to turn his attention to the most basic elemental magic. However, due to his limited talent, it was best to focus on only one element. It would be best to complement each other with the arcane magic of controlling objects. After some consideration, the other elements are not suitable for me. They either lack lethality or cannot cooperate with the arcana of object control. The most lethal ones can also cooperate with it. The weight is overloaded and exceeds the limit of object control. When used, it will overdraw the mental power, fainting, or even death. In the end, he chose the wood type, which was light and moderately lethal. In the perennial expedition to hunt witches, with the power of the witch-hunting secret service at its peak, foreign religious forces have also become the target of suppression. Marcus was captured by the miracles of pain, religion in the process, tortured, and his face covered with knives. He was injured, had acid poured into his eyes, and finally had his jaw removed. But he didn't die in the end. Reinforcements arrived in time, rescued him, and asked the master of magic pattern construction in the secret department to carry out emergency rescue. So he had a metal jaw. During his half-year recuperation, he was promoted to sergeant chief due to his outstanding achievements. When every member of the agency is a good player, these 3 words carry a lot of weight. During this period of time, Marcus expanded the arcana of object control to the limit, and the force field spread out. Even if he was blind, he could still achieve the magical power of sensing the unity of heaven and man, and the wood magic also tended to be at the master level. After years of hunting, he came back to his senses and mastered his swordsmanship. When I returned to the secret witch-hunting office, this agency had become the most violent organization in the Western continent. It covered the sky with one hand. Each sergeant chief was one of the strongest men in Old Allen and had committed countless murders. The name of the chief of the Secret Service is already louder than that of the king. People are frightened by the news, and people dare not mention it. As the power expanded and more people were introduced to consolidate power, they gradually lost control. They killed good people and took credit for their merits, carried out physical and mental humiliation and torture, and flouted the law. The members of the Secret Service all turned into madmen due to greed and desire. And Marcus, one of the heroes, felt deeply guilty. It would not be that simple to leave. It would be regarded as opposing the hunting movement, and he would be killed. Even if he was in the system, his family would be sent to the northern prison. The great prison in the north was more terrifying than death. The director of the Secret Service is an extremely terrifying man, known as one of the most dangerous people in the Western continent. No one dares to oppose him, even if they're silently reciting in their hearts. That kind of oppression has forced the citizens to the point of brainwashing and even mental collapse. Under the unparalleled shock, Marcus was also stood up, and he had to continue hunting until the emperor appears. The old era monarch was beheaded on the throne, and the witch-hunting secret service was liquidated. This was a great purge. All those related to it were killed, and almost everyone was brought to justice. The emperor's master paraded with these prisoners. Executions were carried out in various places to show kindness and power. However, a very small group of people still escaped. The Eternal Sect protected some of the remnants, and some of them fled to the world. The Director General of the Secret Service was originally a war criminal and should have been sent to the North to suffer a lifetime of torture. However, his influence was profound, and his death unsettled the people. His body is still on display in the museum in the imperial capital for people to view. The Deputy Director of the Secret Service received special care in the northern prison and was unable to die. But rumors say that the Deputy Chief escaped during the riots 10 years ago and is now missing. After Marcus was sheltered by the Eternal Sect, under the teachings of the Eternal Sect, he tried to use time to wash away his past sins. but sin is a matter of concept. Until Marcus became a demon. The burning fire of the huge ship, the violent wind and rain. The thin plate of force exerted by Marcus through the technique even allows him to move freely in the air, which is too flexible and terrifying. The tree stump extended through the wood element magic, with the blessing of the force field, flew towards it like flying. Oak's respiratory system was traumatized, and he tried to resist the spiral sword energy with the huge sword on his back, but was unable to swing due to the trauma, and was left with more than a dozen scars and bleeding. He was already exhausted at this time. Even if he used all his strength to slash with his sword, he could not stop these rising wooden stakes. A huge spike penetrated his side. When Finn saw this, he would use the magic net to kill him. Drag it into the sea. If you continue, Oaks will die here. The tree stumps then passed through the horses and died suddenly on the spot. Marcus stepped into the air and swung the extra-large spiral sword. The tree stumps were split into sawdust, and they were killed in an overwhelming manner. What the hell? What's going on? Rin was stunned. This man was incredibly fierce. Sawdust sputtered out like fragments from an exploding gunpowder barrel. He used his claws to tear up the oncoming sawdust, but there were too many and there were a few thorns. It entered the flesh, and a large piece penetrated his left leg. The one-eyed dragon and the tattooed man quickly hid behind the horses with the rest of the pirates. There were more than 30 horses on the shore. They were screaming incessantly and were in panic. They were used as a cover by these pirates. The size of these horses made them perfect targets. All the sawdust was thrown at them, as if they were rolling in a pile of broken glass. His flesh and blood were dripping with blood, and he was screaming in pain. Although he was not dead, yet he was bleeding all over his body, and he was not far from the end of his life. Xiadi and Swan resisted the terrifying spiral sword energy, but under its unparalleled strength, the iron tools in their hands were twisted, and the remaining power penetrated the chest and abdomen, gouging out spiral wounds. If Woolman hadn't rushed out, swung his axe, and held Marcus back for a moment, the two of them might have died. I hate the Aramines the most, and then the magic stick. You stacked the damn talismans full. Wallman hit Marcus on the head with a giant axe, but the force field around him was too weird, and even Wallman's huge force was deflected and dispersed. Before it could hit Marcus, the huge spiral sword weighing 300 pounds caught his axe. Then, amidst the whirling and humming sound, and with sparks flying everywhere, the blade of the axe was roasted until it melted, turning into golden-red molten iron and pouring onto the ground, melting holes. Woolman was shocked. It was so abnormal. The sword wind of the extra-large spiral sword blew off dozens of scales on Woolman's arm, causing his flesh and blood to become blurred for a moment. In the previous battle against the priest, Woolman's eyes were red from the fight, and he pressed his palm towards Marcus' head. He didn't believe that he couldn't kill him. Morrison knew that this priest was more than one level better than Zahak. Although his position in the church was only that of a priest, far inferior to the status of a bishop or high priest, he was a real heavyweight. Witch Hunt Secret Service, there is something. In addition to himself and fun, there were also Lee Sight's strange tools. These people on the ship were capable, but they were no match. No matter how many of them were on board, they would be killed. Must hit hard. It would be a pity for a man as insightful as Woolman to die, and the reckless way he is playing now is simply to die, and he will be buried in the next second. There were too many military police and Vatican defenders buried on the coast, and there were all kinds of weapons. Although Morrison had used up all his hidden weapons, he raised dozens of weapons from the ground with a flick of his whip blade. The skill was too fancy and seemed like acrobatics. Axes, machetes, broadswords, and maces all became Morrison's hidden weapons with arm strength comparable to that of crossbow. He stepped on these corpses, turned them in the air, and constantly grabbed these weapons and fired them at Marcus like cannonballs. Less than a second, the first broadsword thrown had already exploded towards Marcus' head. Marcus didn't care at all. The force field of this thing was naturally isolated, so he wanted to swing the spiral sword to strangle the Argonian into powder. But, boom! The axe behind was actually faster, and then it hit the hilt of the broadsword in front extremely delicately, and the double force burst out at the same time. The force that was already comparable to a siege crossbow was pushed further. This broadsword is enough to blast a person to pieces. Marcus has sensed it through the spreading force field. How could there be such a terrifying skill? The roaring force field was unable to withstand it, and Marcus swung the extra-large spiral sword to block it and crush it completely. However, weapons like a violent storm were thrown one after another, and swords, guns, swords, and halberds were like a storm of weapons. Marcus retreated to block them all. However, this spiral sword is also made of rough iron and has been cracked with holes. Morrison continued. The whip blade picked up the weapon of the corpse on the ground and fired wildly. Marcus had to use the thin power plate to dodge and move in the air to avoid these thousands of murderous, hidden weapons, but Morrison seemed to already know his movement trajectory. That kind of skill is simply unavoidable. Even though he had previously thrown a weapon that exploded in the air, Morrison was able to forcibly change its direction by adding a more powerful throw. This is no longer as simple as a straight-line attack. A killing field has been formed around Marcus. The killing array composed of different weapons trapped Marcus, killing him from above, below, left, right, and from all directions. Now Marcus, who had used the power sheet to gain air superiority, was at a disadvantage, and weapons could even be shot from under his feet in strange ways. Marcus found it unbelievable that this kind of skill was still top-notch even during the horrific suppression movement that year. The wooden piles that were spreading wildly on the ground stopped, and sawdust stopped flying. Marcus had to devote all his attention to dealing with the movement here, giving the others a chance to breathe. Marcus's swordsmanship is also top-notch. Under the induction of heaven and man, combined with the sword skills of the ultimate realm, all the weapons coming from all directions are deflected with the spiral sword. With the blessing of magical power, both his strength and speed have reached a terrifying level. Even a huge spiral sword weighing more than 300 kilograms is as light as a feather, and he can accurately block it every time. Down, it was as fast as a phantom. It seems that your mental clarity has its limits. Morrison did not use all his strength in the previous throws. He just wanted to see the calculation power of the magic swordsman. Although this kind of force field is easier to use than the eyes, when it becomes complex to a certain level, it will blind it by itself. Marcus has been confused. The last thing Marcus blocked was not the flying sword, but Morrison himself wielding the sword. He stepped on the cave wall, and with the blessing of using the whip blade as a hook, he had already ejected. The blood-red light misformed a trajectory. Do you know why I don't use a long sword? I'm tired of playing with this kind of thing. Morrison whispered, and with a strong slash, the tough magic sword exploded through Marcus's spiral sword. The force of this slash was infinitely stronger than Zahak's. Bang! Marcus was directly hit from the air to the ground, but his feet were firmly steady. The unexpected attack made him unsteady, and his arms were shaking faintly, but he recovered immediately. Li Sight was stunned. He was indeed an invincible killer, but he couldn't kill the old man for a while. The Junlin's sword appeared in its complete form from the palm of the hand, and the cursed black mist spread from the arm to the blade, and then continued to expand, and the black light composed entirely of the cursed mist expanded wildly. The sharp edge seemed to be cutting through the surrounding light and began to twist like a heat wave in summer, folding and squeezing the space. Li Sight made a horizontal slash with his left hand, and an arc-shaped black light that melted everything burst out. Click! Marcus used the spiral sword to resist, but the blade was cut in half by the black light. His force field could not only deflect the object, but also deflect himself. He flipped in the air at extremely fast speeds to get out of the way. But the spiral sword has been broken. Li Sight thought that his physical energy was also being consumed. His weapon was broken, and he would not be able to hold on for long. The Junlin sword. It's a pity that you only have one, and it only has less than 1% of the power. It's still far from this level. Marcus is extremely knowledgeable, and even knows his name. He does not think that Li Sight is a visitor from another dimension and will not think that way. There are many people in this world who know how to control the sword. The high priest of the Holy See knows the method and has a sword. Although he cannot use his full strength to collect it, if an uninformed person touches the sword indiscriminately, he will only be killed instantly. Lisite was a little shocked, but he quickly figured out that the so-called priests were also high-level intellectuals, so it was not surprising. It seems that I can't hold back anymore. If I insist on catching him alive, I will only be buried here. I must take action. The arcane magic of controlling objects. I saw that the broken spiral sword blade on the ground was reattached by Marcus, forming a spiral with two halves rotating in opposite directions. As the wind stirred and rubbed, the entire huge sword suddenly burst into flames, melting when touched. Wooden magic. All the wooden trestles around him exploded and were torn apart into wooden needles as thick as a finger, floating around him. Marcus himself used the strength plate and the powerful physical ability exerted on him by magic to pedal and move wildly in mid-air, as scary as he wanted. Originally, Lisite was thinking that it was almost over. Does your mother still have stage 2? Lisite was completely convinced. The twisting spiral that reverses in both directions generates flames and blows out high-temperature heat waves. The feeling of unity between heaven and man, and the weird technique of pedaling in the air. Marcus aims at Morrison, the strongest person here, and kills him within 3 seconds. At this time, Marcus' power speed was several times faster than before. With the blessing of the arcane magic of controlling objects, the spikes of wooden needles rained across Morrison. When he pulled the red sword blade, the wood shattered one after another. Marcus had already stepped forward. Wooden stakes pierced out from under the formation and covered Morrison's head from the left, right, and behind, sealing him tightly like a coffin. Morrison had no time to split the wood, and several small wooden stakes penetrated through again. The spiral high-temperature heat wave directly caused the flames to spread on it, followed by tree roots and vines, binding towards his limbs and joints. Try to limit his movements. Even if Morrison cuts off all the restraints, he will still be burned by the flames. Marcus's extra-large spiral sword also thrust forward at the same time. Accelerated by the deflection of the force field, it rushed towards him at extremely fast speeds, putting Morrison at an absolute disadvantage. Even Morrison frowned. In the previous battle with Zahak, he spent unnecessary energy in pursuit of a quick victory. He did not expect that in the end, Bose was not Zahak, but the priest at the port. These remnants of old Aram are not a little bit strong. They are ruthless characters. Morrison unfolded the winged blade of his elbow to cut off all the tree roots and vines. He slashed out 3 swords in an instant against the flames, tore the cover on the wooden side, and retreated, temporarily avoiding the sharp edge. The hem of his clothes was engulfed in flames, but he pulled them all away with his backhand. Marcus was shocked. He was so fast. The Junlin's sword flashed with black light in an arc, and Marcus used a technique to deviate his position as if teleporting to avoid this invincible blow. He knew the pros and cons. This terrifying, cursed weapon from 700 years ago, even if it was just a sword, had its own characteristics. No matter what kind of existence it was, it had nothing to do with its power. If the blade of the sword was touched even slightly, it would kill instantly, and its sharp edge curse was even more powerful. If it doesn't cut, even then, what's the point of not hitting it? There is no time. Marcus's physical strength is not like a bottomless pit with no end. Whether it is with magic, maintaining the force field, or stirring the spiral sword, it requires a huge amount of physical energy. He is no longer obsessed with bringing that person back alive. This group of people is not easy to deal with. If there is a slight mistake, he will die here. He must rely on explosion to face the siege and completely sweep this place within 5 seconds. Marcus immediately released the last with magic. He stood in the air, with wooden piles rising up around him like a high platform or a torture rack, and then he used the spiral sword to burn them all with high flames. I'm really fucked, all in the water. Rin contacted the weird force field and understood what Marcus was going to do. He was so damn perverted. It was the first time he met someone who could open the second stage. He was damn worthy of 1,002 golden dragons and a privateering license in peacetime. He performed his duties as a bosun and asked the pirates hiding behind the horse corpses to use their escape speed and jump into the sea quickly. Otherwise, all the corpses would be lost. Claude has been protecting the seriously injured Gloria and the mysterious man at the rear. He was hesitant. There seemed to be a lot of people here, but he and Lysight had been running around for a whole day, crossing mountains and ridges, riding bumpy horses and leaking houses. It happened that Lin Yu had experienced a battle with Edmund, and his physical strength was about to bottom out. He could not let the brothers who followed him die in vain. Gloria and Caruso were completely unable to fight. They crossed the huge chasm from the interior and worked their way to the east coast. They had already been squeezed to nothing. Others were also exhausted physically and mentally from Zahak's interception battle and the battle at Secret Port. But the one he faced was unscathed, the leader of the violent organization in Old Aram. But at this time, Claude also became angry. The werewolves and dark elves could jump into the sea. These pirates were all good at water, but the seriously injured ones behind them couldn't jump, and they couldn't even fish them out. He said before that he didn't want a seat. It's just a scene talk. Even if you were a pirate, you still have to show your name. He himself did not 100% believe in Lysight's proposal. He was always pursuing the title, waiting for the Emperor's heavenly soldiers to kill Baima and recruit Telngwa Harbor, so that he could regain his usefulness. The whole army forms an array. Claude yelled, he must guard the mysterious man behind him, otherwise all the hard work will be in vain. Too late. Marcus also went crazy. The extra-large spiral sword exerted its strongest power, spinning and tearing the air with flames that shot out 5 or 6 meters high. In an instant, all the firewood in the surroundings was ignited. The arcane magic of controlling objects was exerted to the extreme, and the force field exploded. Boom! The spiral flame spread like a long dragon, rolled up like a carpet, and rolled up to a height of several meters, flowing in all directions. Wherever it passed, it pulled out ravines with the sword wind. It would kill you if it touched it, and it would burn if it touched it. Claude's men formed an array to protect the mysterious man, and he stood at the front, holding his shield high. Fortunately, Ren was extremely flexible and had already given the order. All the pirates abandoned their horse bunkers and jumped into the sea along with Swanshaw Divorman and others. Although they were as embarrassed as a drowned dog, their lives were still saved. Morrison danced wildly with his whip blade, but he could only take care of himself. Lysight protected himself with the Junlin sword and diverted the flame dragon. Boom! The flames completely spread out. The ablation flames of the giant ship had already raised the temperature in the cave. Now it was even hotter. Sparks filled the sky and ravines were drawn out, burning the corpses on the coast into hot coke. Even Morrison couldn't resolve them all. Some sparks splashed onto the crocodile skin clothes and burned a few holes, but the already tattered clothes were not missing those holes. Claude's side was the most miserable. The shield was boiling hot, and the soldier's hand were all burned. Claude at the front was even more miserable with his face covered in black dust. Marcus remained calm. Although he didn't kill anyone, he had just started. He completely wiped out the place within 5 seconds, and there was only one last move left. He was obsessed with arcane magic when he was young, but he had no ability to become a court sorcerer. When he was young, he joined the witch-hunting secrecy, fell into the abyss, and regretted his life. Now that he is approaching his twilight years, the sins of the past have not been washed away, and unexpectedly he has to take action to kill people himself. It is really God's will. Okay, this is what I have learned all my life. At Marcus' age, I am worthy of these 4 words that I have learned throughout my life. He spread out one hand, and the extra-large sword broke away from his palm, slowly suspended in midair. The two have spiraling wildly in opposite directions. All the charred corpses on the coast were slowly drawn into the center of the vortex in the wind. These still-hot embers wrapped around the extra-large spiral sword one after another. Billowing smoke came out, and the temperature around Marcus reached extreme levels. As long as you wave it, it will definitely be charred. This is not a flame, which is fleeting, but an undead ember that blows onto the body and eats the flesh and bones. The secret service of witch hunting in Old Aram, Master Chief, has learned all his life. Wildly burning black and gray dance in the wind. What about your mother's combo skills? Run, who was already injured, emerged from the water. Not only was it a big job, it was a huge job. Fuck it. Morrison said this. He didn't know the magic, so he could only protect himself. Only Finn could withstand him. He was not a scholar. Although he always had a sad face, he was extremely cold-blooded and vicious. He was said to be the most explosive person on the ship. It cannot be overstated that the former member of the Magic Energy Industry Committee is unfathomable. Finn never took action, just accumulating all his strength and waiting for this moment. He knew that Marcus would inevitably choose to break out in order to escape the siege. The same goes for Fun. When he is waiting to explode, this time he can only win, not lose. The stone tablet in the underworld was too terrifying, and Finn couldn't be sure. If he used it as a medium, he might die. After some decision-making, he still had to rely on himself. I saw Finn standing on the guardrail of the ship, her long dark hair swaying in the strong wind, and then she pulled off her dark purple robe. His upper body was naked, and he had a qualified pirate physique after many years of drifting on the sea. His skin was slightly rough, and his lean muscles had clear outlines. Densely dense, insect-like and obscure dark undead spells were squirming in his upper body, as if they had vitality. Though strange, the horrifying patterns of the undead and mysterious celestial bodies are not tattoos. Finn took off his monocle and crushed the lens between his two fingers. Sun Luo's death service technique, first level. Liberation. Marcus sensed movement over there. Fun's phantom spirit body is still on the coast, and he used the ice crystal giant sword to barely resolve the attack. It seems to be a disembodiment. What? Marcus couldn't believe it. The distance from the boat to the trestle to the coast is hundreds of meters. Not even a moment. Fun himself had exchanged places with the spirit body, and the spirit body exploded instantly. Fun himself suddenly arrived, and the death curse runes on his body surged. Marcus did not hesitate, and swung the ember spiral sword fiercely, using all its magic power. In an instant, black dust filled the air, and the heat was as blazing, covering all light. But wherever the embers were destroyed, they burned wildly with the force of the wind, and could devour people in a matter of seconds. Fun's whole body was filled with mantras, and the undead and celestial body seals glowed with blood, tearing his skin and flesh, bleeding out, and activating the runes all over his body. This state would greatly consume his concentration, and it was also an explosion that squeezed physical strength. Fun's nose overflowed with black blood. He knew that he had to fight quickly, as long as he could block the last burst of the priest. Marcus will only be a righteous siege. Sun Luo's death service technique, 5th level. Liberation. The purple mist turned into thousands of undead souls and howled out, gathering on Fun's arm. Destroy. In order to send a psychological suggestion and even cast a spell to enslave the dead souls he enslaved, Fensingji punched forward with all his strength. These dead souls are not big people, but quantitative changes lead to qualitative changes. The tormented undead surged into a long river, tearing out embers into the air, and accompanied by sharp cries like steam roaring, breaking the hot gray curtain. Marcus's offensive was completely torn apart, and the spell power of this long river was extremely terrifying. The soul of the dead pours directly into Marcus himself. In this state, if Fun wants to control others like a puppet, he doesn't need the person to die at all. He just needs to pour into his body, and the magic power will imprint a curse on his limbs and bones. Direct violence control. Fun rarely fights like this. He prefers to remove a drop of someone's blood or hair and use a spell to kill him, but that requires a lot of materials and plenty of preparation time. Upon seeing this, Marcus swung his huge sword like crazy and strangled the river of undead that was pouring into it into powder. The spiral ember sword wind was drawn to its highest intensity under Marcus's explosion. No one could avoid it, and no one could hide from it. Sun Luo's death service technique, level 6. Liberation. Fun was burned by the embers until his whole body was covered in ulcers. Marcus thought he had succeeded, but Fun's figure transformed into ravens and fluttered towards Marcus. Marcus wiped them all out with one sword. What he hit was only Fun's spirit body. He himself was already standing on the other side, swapping places with the spirit body and changing shape. It's almost you're done. Fun spread out one hand, 7th level liberation. All the death curse runes converged on his hand. This time, what was waved was no longer the soul of the dead, but countless dead bones twisted and twisted together in pain. The skulls were intertwined, which was as scary as it could be. Boom! Marcus swung his ember spiral sword wildly, and the black and gray chars tore and ablated the long river of bones under the sword wind. Boom! When Marcus made the final chop and cracked all the skeletons, the remaining physical strength was already warning, his breath began to become chaotic, and he was about to bottom out. Marcus is battle-hardened. The experience was horrific. He must save his last strength to fight his way out of the siege, leave this place, return to the Holy See to inform, and then send out stronger troops. The spiral sword stopped rotating. It took a huge amount of physical strength to control this 300-kilogram thing, so he was immediately abandoned by Marcus. Marcus used the force field to pull out an ordinary long sword from the ground and stood ready. Seeing this, Finn no longer exhausted his energy, and he was almost reaching his upper limit. The death curse runes on his body no longer surged, and he wiped the blood from his nose. His goal had been achieved, and Marcus was at the end of his strength. What's left next is a righteous assault, and Marcus will definitely die. All the other pirates who had fallen into the water swam ashore. The battle just now was really fucking terrifying, but looking at the appearance of this priest, he had reached his limit. Within a short while, Marcus was surrounded by pirates, casting friendly glances at him. Swan and Shady suffered some sword wounds. Woolman was not feeling well either, and Ren's body was still bleeding from being stabbed by sawdust, so they also gathered around. As expected of General Fun, so fierce, Ren has been with BlackSail for 5 years, and he has never seen Fun show his skill. This time, he has indeed encountered the most perverted enemy since the founding of BlackSail. There is no one. What is a hexagonal warrior? He can resist and fight. Milk can increase noble range damage. This is the confidence that the top students of Pedin National Arcane Academy bring to Ren. Morrison has no nonsense. He stepped forward quickly and tried to kill instantly with a knife. But Marcus still had physical strength left and had not bottomed out. He no longer used wood magic, nor wasted magic power to create spirals, nor wasted any physical strength on large-scale attacks. He only relied on force fields and ordinary long swords to sword skills and body skills break through the siege one by one. Marcus teleported past and swung his sword fiercely. Morrison didn't expect that this person still had energy left, so he blocked it with his wing blades. He took several steps back, and his eyelids twitched. He was indeed a member of the Witch Hunt Secret Service. He was too sophisticated and had completely changed his tactics. Don't move without permission. This magic stick still has some power left. Morrison ordered a group of pirates behind him who were eager to try. At this time, Marcus was still at the level of a first-class strongman and could not be touched by minions. Marcus changed his strategy from massacre to breakout, but he never expected that he would be forced to this point by a group of pirates. Just commit suicide. Don't make me waste more time. It's a dead end anyway. Ren hissed, the wound on his leg still hurting from the sawdust. Marcus understood that the chances of a successful breakout were limited. Pirates, they're just a bunch of gangsters. I've killed many bandits before, so I'll let you speak to the ones who are most responsible. Marcus no longer had the calm demeanor of his previous position as a priest. He looked terrifying and had strong murderous intent. He seemed to have returned to the old Aram decades ago and turned into a killing machine. The giant ship was ablated, and the storm outside the cave was coming to an end, leaving only drizzle. Lee Sight sneered. What do you want to say? If you want to be reinstated, you'll be exempted. I won't let you go. Everyone here has a lot of cases, and you can't handle it. Lee Sight said coldly, the overall situation has been decided. Marcus' heart sank, and he immediately changed his strategy, knowing that pirates were no different from ruffians. If they were provoked, they would die for something they didn't need. It seems that you are the captain of this ship. You have indeed surrounded me now, but anyone who comes over will only die. I still have some strength left. I will die, but I have to support a few people. If the big one doesn't come forward, what do you mean when you come here to take charge of things? Are you just trying to fool around like this? Marcus's intention was obvious. He began to play the same tricks as before, and his mind returned to its former ruthlessness. He was motivating Lee Sight to fight one-on-one. As long as he killed the captain, this group of profit-minded bandits would inevitably die. There will be civil unrest. Are you an old fool? Don't waste your time. Let's kill him together. Rin was speechless. The reason why Lee Sight can become a captain is not because of how powerful he is, but because his methods and decisions can make money with BlackSail. This is indeed the case. Now that 1,002 golden dragons and privateering certificates have been received, one day if you have great skills, you can't make money, you can't live a good life, it's useless. But Marcus's words are not without effect. There are indeed people watching Lee Sight's reaction. There's no shortage of backbones, BlackSail. There are big goods on the ship now, and people without courage can't be suppressed. Lee Sight's expression was cold, but Marcus was so sinister that he put himself on the fire. Really? That's very simple. You still have some strength left, and everyone else might die. The two of us, real men, one-on-one. Lee Sight took back the Junlin sword, which seemed like he was bullying others. In addition, he was not good at using swords. He took out the double-headed flail from behind and picked up a hatchet from the side of the corpse on the ground. Everyone was shocked. Lee Sight actually agreed. Fun's expression was extremely rare, and what he said was like throwing water away. He reached out to stop Lee Sight and shook his head. Although according to pirate methods, Lee Sight had a fight. This was considered duel. But with the approach of smart people, although it will reduce some prestige, it can be filled in later, and there is no need to go to extreme lengths. No one is allowed to stop it. This is the captain's order. The so-called pirates all die, and the same goes for the captain. Let me show you how the pirates on the East Coast kill people. Lee Sight completely changed his appearance and became extremely cold-blooded. His eyes reflected the burning flames of the giant ship. With his tall figure and rough skin, Lee Sight did not have the so-called King's Landing sword for 6 out of 10 years. Come. Marcus' eyes were vicious when he saw that Lee Sight had been attacked. Fun hissed deeply. Lee Sight was taking the BlackSail into the dish. Lee Sight had a hand in controlling people and more or less held the handle of the people on the ship. He still had subordinates in Tianguo port. If he died, the consequences are endless. But at this time, Lee Sight had already spoken out, and it was difficult to recover. Lee Sight held the flail and hatchet and rushed towards Marcus without any hesitation. Marcus sneered. It was full of flaws. It didn't take much effort to kill him. He had to use all his strength to get into position. Immediately, he swung his sword with a little magic power and swung out a few invisible sword energy, which was as powerful as breaking bamboo. Lee Sight saw the attack clearly through the embers swaying in the wind. He was extremely agile and dodged one attack sideways. He then leaned down to avoid another attack. He was already close and swung an axe at him, but it was only a feint. How could Marcus not see through this feint? The axe was struck with no force at all, and he didn't even bother to care about it. It hit the chest with a heavy stab. Lister, exchange student studying abroad at an Ivy League university Department of Applied Optics. But outlaw. Lee Sight didn't even try to dodge or evade. Instead, he took the initiative to face him with his hands. The long sword pierced his arm, penetrated his shoulder blade, and continued to draw toward his chest, bleeding like a stream. However, the chain of the double-headed shackle tightly strangled Marcus's right arm and pulled it hard, making it unable to move at all, and dragged Marcus over. Even Marcus was a little delayed in his reaction by such cruelty, Because Li's sight ran desperately from the beginning, his movements were extremely smooth, without any hesitation. The axe was already slashing towards his head. Li's sight went through countless fights and was able to survive in the East China Sea. With speed, strength, and skills, he had no problem becoming a gold-level adventurer. Marcus didn't even think about wasting his magic power on defense, and activated the force field urgently to try to bounce it away. But it was too late. In order to see things, he had to continuously consume his magic power. At this time, his magic power had reached the bottom. When he pulled it out urgently, he only had the remaining silk, which only covered a little, but could not withstand Li's sight's fierce attack. Boom! Falling into the Tianling guy, plasma flew everywhere and flew into Li's sight's face. Marcus was severely injured and his reaction was gone. Li's sight hit him with a few more axes and died suddenly on the spot and fell down. Under the burning giant ship, Li's sight's figure, illuminated by the huge flames, looked extremely terrifying. Fuck, it almost stabbed me in the heart. I'm still alive. Li's sight let out a joking laugh and lowered his left arm. Hua hua hua. The blood was fighting to flow out. Remember, in the next life, never challenge the captain's dignity in front of the crew. Li's sight's hand, that could still move, trembled and took out the high-end cigarettes from Kangwoo Mountains from his pocket. Everyone was stunned by Li's sight's cold-blooded madness. The tattooed, bald man stepped forward quickly, took out a match, and lit it for Li's sight. The big job is done. Although Li's sight was risking his life, he only played a little bit, because he knew that he could lead these people to make money, and he also had some key handles, and he was really about to die. This bunch of people will come to save myself. This is trickery. In the blue depths, black sails flutter. Gold and silver treasures, bloody blades clanging. Burning, killing, and looting without any sense of justice. Time flies. All turn into wine and meat. Cruel cheers and savage howls imitated the horrified roars of the cannibal tribe. This complete lawless zone in the East China Sea has spawned too many lunatics who dance with their lives on a tightrope. Li's sight summoned the Junlin sword. This sword has endless magical effects. A strange black light passed by, and the injuries on his body burned into a strange black ghost mist. The wounds were healed in a moment, but it left a mark like a burn. This made all the pirates completely impressed by the captain of the BlackSail boat. Just as Li's sight said, "That's fair, real men one-on-one." As the leader of this group of outlaws, Li's sight fell out of favor faster than flipping through a book, and then chatted and laughed with the backbone of the ship, not taking the previous life-and-death situation seriously. Claude lowered his head, and his eyes were distracted. Today, he and Li's sight fought together from Lavender Town to Wine Breath Canyon, climbed over mountains and ridges, and narrowly escaped from the mines. Riding horses along the way was bumpy, and Claude was well aware of his fatigue. To this extent, Li's sight was in extremely bad condition. It was hard to imagine how ferocious this man was and how powerful he was. Now that he was in the company of these people, he couldn't turn back. He might have fallen into the abyss. Li's sight ordered all the pirates to clean the battlefield, bring all useful things, and prepare to escape. Fun pulled back the purple robe and put it on her body again. The matter in Linden City has finally come to an end, and Li's sight's prestige has been consolidated. If he dies, the channels for selling stolen goods in Tianguo Port and the handover of Panxia's land, he will be in Tianguo Port. The confidants, the backbone of the ship, also have their own ideas about the use of gems and stone tablets, and other issues will be affected. The new captain election will definitely detonate all issues, and Li's sight must not die. Fun looked at the three people behind Claude. Gloria and Caruso were both in an extremely weak state. He wondered why Liz didn't kill these two people. Liz must have had other plans. When they arrived at the Port of Heaven, there might be others. The highlight: this place looks too evil. Pack up and leave as soon as possible. Woolman's bloody and torn scales were so painful that he glanced at the miserable situation on the coast. It was not advisable to stay in such a dangerous place for a long time. Staying there for a long time would bring bad luck to the body. Killing was killing, but it was still for good luck, which were two different things. There are good luck words again. Morrison ordered the pirates to go to the ship to get the purple berries he bought and chatted while eating them. Ren didn't know Claude. Looking at this, Bai looked sad and seemed not very satisfied with his wonderful new life. This tall and burly man had performed very well just now, forcibly protecting the beautiful girl with big breasts. He must be the knightly sight mentioned before. After checking with Swan, Ren's paws rested on Claude's shoulders. You are right, but the BlackSail Pirates is a new business organization independently developed by Lee Sight. The story takes place in the East China Sea. You will play the role of a poor ghost wandering on the edge of life and death and meet people with different personalities and unique abilities. Scumbag, die on the streets with them, expose your body in the wilderness, and at the same time, gradually discover the truth about the pirates. It would be impossible to keep such a person on a ship without giving him a key position, so Ren decided to give Claude a showdown first. I haven't said anything yet. Claude doesn't know what to say. Who asked you? Ren found it very boring. He was a person without a sense of humor. After Finn, Oaks, and Swan, there was another boring gourd. Lee Sight came over to take a look at the situation of the cargo. He had already made a plan. Now that someone was a hostage, not only on the ship but also in the port of heaven, he was in a state of being at his own mercy. Now speaking, Bai Mashouchai already has a way to get there. As long as the goods are delivered according to the agreement and not asked about irrelevant matters, BlackSail will be able to live a good life until Yalin and Baima officially go to war. But now this kind of battle has made Lee Sight change his mind, and he does not rule out the possibility of killing the person who takes over at Tianhua port and swallowing the person up. The mysterious man's cloak was soaked by the rain. Lee Sight clicked his tongue in surprise. She was really a beautiful girl with big breasts. There was quite a lot of movement just now. You weren't hurt. Lee Sight approached the mysterious man. The mysterious man saw the battle just now. He put his hand on his other arm and tilted his head, obviously showing some resistance. Damn it, you scared that little girl. Xia Di discovered the crux of the matter. Let alone the little girl. You rush forward with an axe and hit your head with an axe at your own risk. Anyone who is going through life will be scared to look at it. I'm so fucking scared. Uncle, I like little girls the most. Lee Sight completely didn't realize that he was no longer the handsome man who was crazy about winning glory for the country in North America, but a scarred man with an unkempt beard and sweaty leather armor. He was still thinking that he was finally starting a beautiful harem. This is the authentic and correct way to open a different world. Caruso was already extremely exhausted. Seeing that Marcus was dead, he fell to the ground and passed out. The mysterious man immediately leaned over to check, scrambling. I wipe. Lee Sight was dumbfounded. If Caruso died, how could he make money to get on a ship? How could he infiltrate this mysterious man by controlling these two people? Under the sense of crisis, this girl only thinks about handing over and leaving as soon as possible. How to establish a healthy bond for her own use. Call Micah quickly to check on the situation. Micah had already treated Oakes's wounds, leaving the others with minor injuries. After coming down, he checked the heartbeat through the stethoscope, then lifted Caruso's cloak and lifted his shirt. I saw a wound more than 20 centimeters long on Caruso's chest and abdomen, but it was burned black and stopped bleeding with electricity by himself. There were also some old infected wounds in other places, which was as scary as it could be. Even Swan, who didn't speak much, was shocked. It turned out that this man was injured more seriously than Gloria. He just used electricity to roast the meat to stop the bleeding. He came to Lavender Town and then came back, and he still managed to reach the port. The Holy Spirit teaches that Superman belongs to Yes. Lee Sight couldn't believe it. These crazy people were so damn outrageous. Micah checked for a while. Under extreme fatigue, the myocardial blood supply was insufficient and the heart sound were already a little weak. The infected wounds were also consuming his energy at an accelerated rate. Antibiotics and debridement must be given immediately. In addition, the subcutaneous bleeding and swollen joints were initially presumed to be septicemia. If there are signs, powerful sterilizing drugs need to be delivered, but nutrient solution must be given first to restore physical strength, and then the lesions and infections can be cleaned up. Now he is on the verge of death and must be treated immediately. But it doesn't matter. This lady is seriously injured. I'll take her for treatment first. Micah took back the stethoscope and spoke seriously. No, I can still hold on. Although Gloria was not feeling well, she could still speak weakly. She understood that if Caruso died, it would be difficult to deal with the next change. These pirates were surprisingly strong and could withstand the military police and priest from Allen. The Count is looking for the most ruthless local snake on the East Coast, so he must be on guard against him. How can that be done? It's a pity that's such a couple. Micah quickly changed his words. What a pity for a beauty like you. Micah began to have a good impression. In a vote among Gloria's crew, the result is that everyone has their own abilities, and Micah must go crabbing hard. Lee Sight summoned Archer, who had always been on the fringe, and asked him to quickly bring Dunsey and the sous chef to prepare the main dishes. Life is at stake. Anyway, get on the ship first. I will assign you a few assistants to take care of these two distinguished guests who have come from afar, as well as the injured brother. Lee Sight saw that the battlefield had been cleared and everyone had arrived. Rin thought it was time to go to sea, so he traveled around the world and traveled all over the world. It's better to start soon, otherwise things will change. Finn suggested. Original. Rin hasn't finished speaking yet. Lee Sight quickly stopped. If you try to force me out at this time, I will beat you to death. Lee Sight picked up the frost cuckoo, crying blood, knocked the iron on the ground to make a noise, and continued to add loudly. Everyone's eyes are on me. Let me announce something. Let's go to the highest port in the universe, the port of heaven. Set sail and set sail. Lee Sight shouted. Everyone was shocked and thought you had something to talk about. Although Lee Sight is a science student, he still has to pretend to be an educated person and start rereading classics. This journey is like a fish entering the sea or a bird ascending to the sky. It is no longer fettered. 3 days later, East China Sea, the boundless ocean without boundaries. The water is blue, cloudless, and the sky is clear. The Fermat King's Revenge was sailing on the sea. The 46-meter-long behemoth propped up its sails and cut through the waves, which was quite spectacular. It takes a long time to sail from the East Coast to the Port of Heaven, and all sailors also work in shifts and cannot stop for a moment. The sailing process was far from being as interesting as imagined, and was actually extremely boring. Ship's hospital. Micah picked up the gauze and scissors and opened the bottle of debridement solution. Gloria looked at the surging sea outside the porthole in trance. Her beauty was consistent with the newspaper prints, but her light blue hair was a bit messy and unkempt. She took a bath on the boat and had to tie a bucket with a rope to lower the boat to scoop out the seawater. Drinking fresh water is planned resources cannot be wasted like this. She didn't get used to it all. The profession of adventurer didn't care much about cleanliness. She still had a place to stay when she arrived at Tianghua Port. At that time, she could find a hotel on the shore to take a shower. Is this your first time going to sea? Micah is changing the gauze on Gloria. He is indeed a heroic adventurer. He may have practiced some method to strengthen his body. His physique is quite good, and his wounds are recovering quickly. Caruso is a fucking Holy Spirit Superman. He is already jumping alive and kicking. As for Oaks, he is a sports student among sports students. He was able to work at high intensity the day after the battle. In accordance with the agreement, Lee's site allocated a separate room for the three of them, and others were not allowed to disturb them. Yeah, it's unnerving that there's no end at all. Gloria was ordered by Fana to wander around and must stay in her room, but Gloria could also figure out that the first mate of the ship was worried about the restlessness of the crew. But what she didn't expect was that her bones were getting restless. At this time, debridement and gauze change have been completed. What are you doing? Gloria grabbed Micah's wrist. His hand was dishonest, and the wound was on his waist, but he slowly moved upward. Micah tactics blackface. It's like this. I have a chest massage method passed down from my ancestors, which can activate blood circulation and remove blood stasis, which is helpful for recovery. Micah spoke righteously and seriously. Thank you, please forgive me. Gloria felt a little embarrassed, put on her clothes, and prepared to leave. At this time, Ren pushed the door open and came in. He was stabbed in the leg by a piece of sawdust as big as his palm, but it did not hurt the muscles. He just needed to be disinfected and bandaged. He had no problem walking at all. But at this time, he pretended to be limping and came in to see a doctor. Although Run is a Furue control, he is a ruthless character who is not afraid of meat and vegetables. He is thinking about Gloria's celebrity status as an adventurer, and he likes people who are famous and exciting. Gloria was about to leave around Ren, but Ren couldn't give her this chance and immediately stopped her in front of her. Sister or brother is not educated and doesn't like to talk, but brother loves you. Ren stopped pretending and his leg healed immediately. Micah was about to vomit blood because Ren finally took a shower in 2 months. His greasy and knotted hair was no longer greasy. It was so refreshing that he was doing lung care. It was so refreshing that he was suffocating and dirty. His dark red leather coat was shiny, and his silver gray hair revealed that he looked like the former deputy leader of the Hungry Wolf Adventure Group. I don't understand what you were talking about. Gloria didn't react, and she suspected that she heard wrongly. Ren tactics blackface. Sister, I used to be an adventurer, and the two of us chatted. Ren hasn't finished speaking yet. Sorry, I still have something to do. Gloria felt something was wrong in the atmosphere and hurriedly left the ship's hospital room. In the cabin passage, there are many pirates who are taking a break and hiding from the sun. Although it is already winter, the light on the sea is scorching to death. Eyes mixed with restlessness were cast towards her one after another, making Gloria feel uncomfortable all over. She also received many looks like this in the Adventurers Guild, but the thoughts of these pirates were unabashedly displayed in their eyes, as if they wanted to eat them alive. Stop! There was a sudden shout from the corridor. Morrison was also fishing in the passage. He, the gunnery commander of the ship, was a sinecure and was gnawing on an orange, including the peel. Gloria looked at the source of the sound. She was deeply impressed by this man, no less than the first mate and captain of the ship. In the battle with Marcus, this man's performance was far more than a heroic adventurer. What's wrong? Gloria was a little cautious. Morrison was silent for a moment and then began to make explosive remarks. Would you like to go to bed with me? I know a good spot on the boat with a good view. Morrison said calmly and went straight to the point. Gloria was directly stunned by the combos of 3 people, and this one was even more heavyweight. She left without looking back, just wanted to get back to her room quickly. Morrison continued to shout at Gloria's back. I'll give you money, 30 silver coins, 60. Morrison saw Gloria walking faster and faster and realized that she needed to be more intense. I'll give you a golden dragon. Gloria has gone away and returned to the room. The other pirates in the passage directly worshipped Morrison. He was worthy of being a brother, and he easily accomplished what we couldn't do. Hold! Morrison felt a bit disappointed. At this time, Swan ran down in a hurry. No, Caruso is causing trouble in the navigation room above. Swan said coldly. Ren also showed up at this time and rushed to the navigation room with Morrison. Quickly came to the navigation room. Ren figured out why. It turned out that Caruso had never been on a ship before, but he was very cautious. He observed the general direction of the 3 days and found that the ship was not sailing in a straight line, but in an arc. He asked to sail in a straight line to Tiangwa port. He was worried about this. It would be detrimental to the pirates to move to other places. Oh my God, have you never been on a boat? Rin was speechless. Still driving in a straight line. You're responsible for anything that happens. Woolman yelled. Then do you need to change ships here? You can change ships at your next stop. Take a passenger ship to Tuga Island near Tiangwa port, and then find a private transfer to Tiangwa port. The cost is about 129 silver coins. Xiadi said calmly. In exchange, I'll pay for the boat ride. This is the usury loan lent to you by my eldest brother. The rules on the road are 9 departures and 13 returns. The principal of 10 gold dragons will be deducted by 10% of the beheading interest. If you return the 13 gold dragons, the situation in the sea area is special. Considering the risk cost, it needs to be doubled 1.5 times. That is, the 19 gold dragons and 100 silver coins must be repaid with a period of 3 months. Logically speaking, you need to mortgage your family's address, but the person you want to send is also on the ship. It's like a mortgage. Morrison teased and discharged 9 golden dragons. Caruso didn't know what to say. These people should be cleaning themselves up. Besides, the loan sharks here are so terrible. Compared with the inland banks, they're simply charity funds. Fun, who rushed over, couldn't stand it any longer. He even triggered a combo, so he started to explain to Caruso. It's definitely faster to go in a straight line, but there are many unstable factors. 80% of the East China Sea has not been visited by anyone, and there are only a few developed routes. Ours is already the fastest. Walking along the coast is convenient for rationing and safer. Finn took out the map and explained it carefully to Caruso, dispelling his concerns. Lee Sight sat in the corner and remained silent. He had to think of a way to uncover the mysterious man's cover without being discovered by the 2 bodyguards or even the mysterious man himself. He looked at Swan and had an idea. Finn also added some thermal knowledge. The channel on the map is only a general direction. Anchoring a general path will prevent you from getting lost. The specific way to go is determined by the wind, not people. If you don't have the motivation to take the shortest route, it's better to have the motivation to take the longer route, which will be faster. With so many pirates on board taking shifts, it was necessary to adjust the sail rigging to achieve a better windward angle. The reason why there is such a thing as a logbook is to record various trivial adjustments, how many knots the speed is, what direction it is going, and the impact of weather and sea conditions so that we can know where we are on the map. Finn understands astrology and astronomy. It can be said to be a dodecagonal warrior. He can judge the current position through the angle of drop between celestial bodies, azimuth angle, and other phenomena, but he still needs double protection. Finn gave Lee Sight a thoughtful look. Although he was writing the diary, Lee Sight was still responsible. Although the probability was about 0, the sea was relatively calm now that winter had come, but if he really got lost, take Lee Sight. Site worships heaven. As a high-ranking figure in the Church of the Holy Spirit, Caruso is also an intellectual and a smart man. After Finn explained it, he was indeed logical, but he was still worried that these pirates would be detrimental to the 3 of them. Technically speaking, this was indeed the case, but they still have the final say as to where Tianguo Port is located. Caruso also understood that there was no point in continuing to struggle, as people had to bow their heads under the eaves. You should have studied in college before, right? Caruso couldn't help but ask. The quality shown by the first mate of this ship was definitely not that of a wandering warlock from Yaluzi. Lee Sight took a deep breath and cocked his gun. He had just called Swan over and was about to go out and talk about the plan, but he completely forgot about it. He knew that Finjubi was about to start singing. It was at Pedin National Academy of Arcane Arts. I took many courses at that time, and I also dabbled a little in the sea. In fact, sailboats are not pushed by the wind. This is a misunderstanding. No matter how strong the wind is, it will push it, not approaching 1,000-ton behemoth, but because of the fill arc effect, when the air passes through the arc's surface, it will form an upward attraction. Finn got excited and started talking about advanced pretense. This is called Bernoulli's principle on Earth, and he wasn't finished yet. Yes. 3 sentences can't be separated from your shabby school. You're the only one who has studied, right? Ivy, did I say anything? Lee Sight was convinced. If he didn't interrupt, he could talk for 10 minutes without stopping. For a while, the atmosphere in the navigation room was very depressing. Woolman, Xiadi, and others covered their foreheads with their palms, not wanting to expose their eyes. There was no denying that Lee Sight was experienced and knowledgeable. He could draw some principles on everything he saw, and he also spoke well. But as a person with the second-to-last literacy rate, Lee Sight may not be able to catch up with the coolie sailors outside. It is really sad to fantasize about non-existent academic qualifications. The mahogany wall clock in the navigation room was spinning crisply, and for a moment the whole space was filled with pity. Lee Sight had some hysteria in him, and he could tell clearly that he was not joking when he said this. Yes, I also sent a letter to his school at that time, Chong. Ivy, in Bailuo City in the kingdom of Gilleg. Swan was worthy of being from the Thieves' Guild. His skills in deception and abduction were not to mention. Apart from the difficulty in pronouncing his name, he spoke extremely naturally and his tone was not stiff at all. He was a step down for Lee Sight. Caruso knew that the Pedin National Academy of Arcane Arts was one of the top universities, and those who could get into it were all the best among the people. Promotions were just around the corner, and the names were astonishing, but he had never heard of this Ivy League. I see. That place is also famous for its scholars, and it must be a famous school. Caruso said calmly. Boom! If Lee Sight was struck by lightning, C1 was still surprised. This time it was the Infinite Blade's critical strike bonus, and the damage was real. Ha ha! Here comes the chicken soup. Long live understanding. Lee Sight called Swan out of the navigation room, as if he had lost his mind, preparing to tell him his plan. The atmosphere in the room finally returned to normal. Captain has always been mad. Don't be surprised. In fact, his brain is still normal. Perhaps it is more appropriate to say that he is manic. It does not affect normal decision-making and judgment. Finn noticed the worry on Caruso's face and knew what he was thinking. In the past few days, Finn also noticed Lee Sight's thoughts. Lee Sight wanted to eat both sides. Before arriving at the Port of Heaven, Lee Sight would secretly reveal if the identity of the mysterious person is more valuable than the privateering license. Then the handover person will be made. Tianguo Port is BlackSail's home ground. Now that there is money on the ship, the three of them can stay in the Port of Heaven for a long time. In the end, there is no hope of waiting. To get them on the ship, they must use Caruso and Gloria to infiltrate. After these two people get through, the mysterious man will only when it is opened can it be completely transformed. I see. Just in case, Caruso asked Fawn to give him a map, and he had to compare it to see if he was going to Paradise Port. Absolutely okay. Finn brought a rolled parchment map to Caruso, not caring at all that it was actually the destination. Caruso was relieved. Since the big order was successful, Chef Archer was in a very good mood, and he had put all his heart into the cooking these days. Although the sea conditions are limited and the cooking skills are also greatly restricted, this is not a problem for Xeon's former palace chef. Although the big pot meal may not be interesting, it is already a delicacy for the pirates. Today's main course for lunch is baked pork minced meat with 7-season mutton, ginger, and grapefruit seafood soup, and then brown bread. Caruso will take the food back to the room alone, and the mysterious man will not go out. There is no restaurant on the pirate ship. Archer and several sous chefs put several large buckets on the deck. Each person had a wooden plate and a wooden bowl. They scooped out the food from the bucket with a big spoon and received a standard ration. Near the side, Haywood and a group of carpenters were repairing the place that was damaged by the giant's big stone that day. When they saw that dinner was about to begin, they all gathered around. You were raised by force, and you were reincarnated as a starving ghost, right? Don't jump in line, just order one by one. If anyone tries to squeeze you again, I'll slap you in the face. Archer obeyed these morning stars and felt like he was running away from home every time he worked. All the pirates gathered together to eat, and they were still divided into two categories. One was a dry meal with a vengeful feel, and the other was a pleasant moment of chewing slowly and enjoying little. The backbone of the ship does not have a small stove, and they also eat from a big pot. Although the money earned by the backbone of the team is different, privileges are the most taboo on a pirate ship. Everyone has the right to vote on daily affairs. There are too many differences among a large group of desperados. It is easy to get angry if you're isolated at sea. Isn't this turning your intestines again? Morrison and Xiadi also ate against the railing of the boat. Selling you a weapon, badge and long. Do you want it? Morrison asked calmly. Haha, kill me and take it to the legal affairs department to exchange for money. Is it made of gold or gems? Xiadi was disdainful. Morrison understood Xiadi's skill. Most of the time, he suffered from weapons. As long as it was sharp and tough enough, Xiadi's swordsmanship was nothing to speak of. Don't forget about Zahak's sword. I'll sell it to Claude. Please, you must sell it to me. Xiadi hurriedly put down the bowl and ran back to the bedroom to get the money. This fucking lieutenant general's sword was too long to die. Morrison looked at Lee Sight and Swan, who were sneaking around in the corner. He didn't know what they were talking about. Swan looked shocked. In this weather, the cold wind on the sea is as sharp as a knife. Lee Sight's ears hurt a little, so he quickly took a sip of soup to calm down. Do you understand? I will get rid of both Caruso and Gloria, and then you have to see the mysterious man. I mean, see for real. Is it a fucking human, an orc, or something like that? Lee Sight picked at his braided beard. It was time to wash it, and he couldn't bear to cut it off. The main reason was that he was too damn handsome. If he cut it, he wouldn't look like a captain, and he wouldn't be invited into the palace by the emperor's wife. Let's communicate very hard. You mean, I need to check the detailed characteristics without being discovered by her? Swan was stunned. According to Lee Sight, it was not enough just to look like him. He had to confirm his ethnicity, whether he had any tattoos, and he also had to see if there was anything in the house that could prove his identity. That's it. Lee Sight didn't know what to say. Anyway, she couldn't be discovered by herself yet. Looking at Swan's expression, Lee Sight thought it might still be a bit difficult. If it didn't work, he could just pretend to be drunk and break in to take a look. Okay, but when I left the Thieves Guild, I left in a hurry and didn't bring the special drug. I don't know if Micah can match it. Swan gave a high-level answer. Lee Sight was shocked. This is called professionalism. Lee Sight pointed at Swan, who was worthy of being a master thief, and all the terminology was correct. You'll go to Micah later and tell him that I found him to match him. It's ready. You come to me, and then the action officially begins. What are you going to do? The reason why Lee Sight is so cautious is because there must be room for this matter. Now, it is a choice between the privateering license and the mysterious man. It is not sure which one is better for Hey Fan. If one step is wrong, every step will be wrong. If knowing his identity, Baima Xiaochai turned his back on him and refused to recognize him. I heard Swan imitating Caruso's voice, and it was exactly the same. Awesome, bro. Lee Sight was shocked. The skill points of these guys in the Thieves Guild were a bit outrageous. They were all in a crooked way. The door latch of the room must be locked. I will imitate Caruso's voice and ask her to open the door. At this time, I will stand on the ceiling, throw the drug into the room, and then I will stick a note on the crack of the door. Making her unable to close the door, the effect of the drug took effect quickly. She fell down, and I walked in and closed the door. She didn't notice it, and she couldn't notice it either. When she woke up, she found that she was in bed and had a dream. Unconsciousness. Swan said calmly, already familiar with this routine. Lee Sight's eyelids twitched. This is no longer a professional issue. You've done this before, you bastard. But he's really awesome. From now on, C1 will also be included in the list of high-end talents. Notice Lee Sight's expression. When I was in the Thieves Guild, one of the most profitable ways to survive was to extort nobles. You must know that in Yalin, you can't open a brothel openly. Officials who visit prostitutes will be regarded as evidence. Immortals dance, and all the people who are fascinated are men. When I woke up, I was in a brothel, and I found a few brothel ladies to get in touch with me. If I didn't give him 20 or 30 gold dragons, I would detain him and call him an official. Swan explained that he was infinitely more serious than the others on board. It's high, it's really high, then it's settled. Lee Sight finished eating the meal in 2 or 3 mouths, and now all he had to do was get Caruso and Gloria out, which was not difficult at all. They had to be present to find a cover. An hour later, Swan came to the ship's hospital. Micah was reading erotic novels to learn how to win women's favor. When he noticed someone coming, he quickly closed it and put in the drawer. Micah's position is considered a busy one. The conditions at sea are harsh. Every now and then, someone gets cold or arthritis. The door is usually not closed. But after Swan came in, he locked the door, came closer, and said mysteriously, "Do you have any drugs here? It's best to be in gaseous form. Do you understand what I mean? You don't need to drink it, just leave it there. Play a role." Micah was silent for a moment. "You also want to have sex with Gloria, right?" "Sorry, I've already made a reservation. Don't you think this method is despicable?" As Micah said this, he put on his glasses to make himself look more serious. C1 was dumbfounded. What the hell was happening? "It was a sign by the captain." Swan replied, "Haha, I knew that Lee Sight had a human face and a beast heart. I had to tell Gloria to save her from being poisoned." Micah suddenly transformed into a partner of justice and stood up, but this matter could not be compromised. Swan was completely speechless and told Micah the whole story. I see, this is simple. Micah walked into the pharmacy and used a measuring bottle to adjust it for a while. A powerful anesthetic plus ether to increase its volatility would be enough. Just unscrew the cap and pour it on the ground. It still depends on your operation. The evaporation effect is very fast. It is best to wear a wet mask on your nose. Micah brought the bottle to Swan. I see. Swan didn't understand what new pharmacology was and thought that Micah had some attainments in alchemy. He was about to open the latch and go to the captain's cabin to tell Lee's sight that the operation had officially begun. I made a reservation for Gloria. Micah did not forget to warn. Swan's fist hardened, but he still nodded, opened the door, and left. Half an hour later, Gloria and Caruso were invited to the navigation room at the same time, saying that they wanted to discuss the handover issue at Tiangua Port. Leesight's attitude was very tough. You two must be here, and we need to discuss this matter carefully, because we don't know what will happen when we get to Tiangua Port. The person who contacts us will also be controlled. In that case, our situation will become very bad. Leesight took the vaccination first, and even if no enemy controlled the contact person by then, he would have to control it himself. You don't have to worry about this. We have a new type of instrument. A warlock who has become famous in the Empire recently is the train operator. He invented a new type of transmitting device using magic materials. It cannot be deciphered. The handover code can only be used this instrument is right. Caruso took out a rough, palm-sized wooden box from his arms. It had no display screen, only 2 LED lights and a wooden scale wheel. When Leesight saw this object, he felt as if he had traveled through time. Are you still fucking drinking? Water droplets will be flying over in a few days. Leesight grabbed Archer's wine bottle directly. At this time, Archer was drunk and confused. Hi, what's the drop of water? Brother Shaw is here. He's dead with one knife. What's there to say? Archer opened another bottle of wine and drank it, burping from the wine. Leesight was speechless. This killer might not be able to withstand it, but it was just a short-distance transmitting device, so it wasn't a big problem. You are forced to be a traitor, right? One day, I will sacrifice you to the flag. And at the same time, on the other side, Swan officially took action. He yelled at the other pirates to leave the passage, and then imitated Caruso's voice. Open the door, I'm back. Nautical interior. Due to the difficulty of starting a business in the early days of BlackSail, the elm wainscoting in the room had many marks from axes, either by outsiders or by internal struggles. It was innocuous and too lazy to maintain. Over the past 2 or 3 years, as time passed, the backbone frame is stable, but there is no such problem. In the center is a high-end mahogany long table that has nothing to do with the war-damaged style of the room. It is also covered with a blue silk tablecloth and some silverware embellishments. It can be called high-class. There was some dust on the glass cover of the kerosene lamp on the table. Leesight could not find a topic for a moment, so he picked up the oily black tablecloth and wiped the glass. He was in a trance and looked at Gloria blankly. I have been too busy running around to see clearly. This old girl is really exciting. She has big cold eyes and fair skin that seems to be able to pinch water. She may have practiced some special method to make her hair light blue. The Western continent I don't have the habit of dyeing my hair, and this leather armor clings to the curves. Leesight's tongue was pressed against his cheek, and the famous adventurer added an extra talisman's attack speed. It was so exciting, so hard, and his fists must not be attacked by other crew members. He had to find a way to do it. Is there anything else? Gloria was still a little worried about the mysterious man. Someone had to go back and guard her. The girl was under a lot of psychological pressure now. Many people died because of her along the way. She happened to be a caged sparrow who had never seen the world at all. How uncomfortable it was. One can imagine. No rush, no rush. Leesight counted the time, and just in case, he would try to get 20 minutes to avoid any mistakes on Swan's side. Now that I think about it, Leesight feels like fucking Inuyasha collecting the fragments of the Four Souls Jade, which is probably because he used a rush to game forums like crazy and got 0 good results in the game of looking for the planning relatives, and was criticized. Backlash: although the objects on the ship have great origins, they all have a damn zodiac system. There were a total of 24 peerless treasures on the Overlord's crown 2,000 years ago. Swan stole 2 of them. There was only a fragment of the underworld stone tablet. It is not clear how big it is. If it is as big as the monument in the capital of Ermii, Rika, then the real underworld belongs to the underworld. Although they are incomplete, the 2 gems can be sold for a sky-high price that will last for several lifetimes. The fragments of the stone tablet are also extremely powerful. General Finn does not dare to try it easily, but they are still corpses. Even the Junlin sword in his left hand is the same one. Since I am 3 times as bitter as Inuyasha, 3 Kikyo and 3 Kagome are not too much. Gloria and the mysterious man together only accounted for 2/6, and the difference was 4 more. Lee Sight winked at Fun and had already communicated with him in advance, asking him to hold back Caruso, while Gloria needed her own righteous communication. Fun was very ashamed. Even though he thought Lizette was too vicious, he had told him to talk to Caruso, to do what he liked, and to pretend to be interested in the gods and doctrines of the Holy Spirit Church. Although Finn himself is an atheist, after seeing Caruso's injuries, this Holy Spirit taught Superman's extraordinary willpower, and his faith is worthy of respect. Since it was for the sake of the overall situation, Finn decided to feel guilty for 3 seconds to express his apology. I myself am also an arcane caster, and I am very interested in the miracles of various religions in the Western continent, especially the Church of the Holy Spirit. As a religion that has been passed down since ancient times, it has a long history and profound foundation, and is not like other sects that are pretentious and deceptive. By comparison, the 13 Holy Spirits are widely praised. In this area of the East China Sea, there is also widespread belief in the Holy Spirit of waves and storms, the Lord of the endless blue. If our brothers on the ship abandon the dark and turn to the light and wash their hands in the golden basin, we will have to spend a lot of money on the Lord of the Blue. Build a golden body. Finn's choice of words is also very clever. The pirates of the Holy Spirit are not qualified to believe him now. They have to wait until they put down the butcher's knife and show off the Holy Spirit's strength. Lee Sight looked calm on the face, but his heart was already in turmoil. He was really a talented student. He spoke in an official manner and spoke well, so he was said to have a high status in the past. As expected, Caruso was tricked. Now he has nominally betrayed the Holy Spirit cult and become a desperado. He was once a high-ranking person, and he has something in common with Fun. He was suddenly opened up to chat, as if he had found a confidant. No matter how cold-blooded a person is, he is always emotional. How could he not be a little unhappy when he was wandering all the way and was killed into a dog and fled to the East Coast and then went into exile overseas? Huffin immediately began to tell everything. Upon seeing this, Gloria thought it was time for her to leave. Since the matter had been discussed, there was no need to talk nonsense here. Lee Sight saw something bad. Is it true that my reputation as Li Xuanhuan in North America is in vain? When I was in a mine that day, if I didn't have any weapons with me, I would have died there. With just your sword skills, you could have held off that monster with unparalleled sword skills for so long until we came over. That monster was not an ordinary person. It was an Asian General Lan is truly remarkable. Lee Sight started to say compliments. He transforms into the Dharma of freedom. He transforms into eternity. He transforms into compliments. And one must have extremely high attainments in mental studies to practice. In the age of imperial decline, who dares to claim to be invincible? Who dares to be invincible? Everyone loves to hear compliments. For a celebrity like Gloria, compliments on appearance have long sounded cowardly and too purposeful. She should give her what she likes, in terms of professional quality and personal achievements. Tonight, Lee Sight joins the hunt. Stop talking, my waist still hurts. Gloria smiled sarcastically, a little embarrassed, but when it came to swordsmanship, she was quite confident. It was just that the monster had armor made of life, alchemy, and magic patterns, so she suffered a big loss. Lee Sight's eyes flashed. He took the bait and had no intention of leaving immediately. General Fun once guessed that Gloria's hometown was a small country called Catania near the inland narrow sea. It was slaughtered by the emperor to build official roads in order to avenge the emperor, so he took the order because he could deal with it. Aram poses a threat. There is a high probability that this is a short-term cooperative relationship, and Lee's sight has made up his mind. Perhaps it's a gossip unique to us pirates. We spend all day idle on a broken ship with nothing new. You should be hired, right? Now you have been expelled from the Adventurers Guild and have become a fugitive. What are your plans for the future? I'm afraid you won't be able to return to the land with your appearance of attracting bees and butterflies. In order to exclude his own purpose, Lee Sight deliberately used the relatively derogatory word to attract bees and butterflies, knowing that Gloria would definitely be on guard next, as this was a sensitive matter. Gloria hesitated for a moment. This hesitation was caught by Lee's sight, and Lee's sight realized that it was done. There was a 20% probability. This seems to be none of your business. Gloria realized that it was time to leave. No, it's like this. I have opened some stores in Tiongua Port, cafes and pubs, etc., and they are very short of manpower. It would be great if there are experts in charge. Lee Sight unleashed his ultimate move. Relationship ties, which focus on the conversion of resources, need to provide value. The material value of the golden dragon, the emotional value of the appearance, and the value of overcoming difficulties together or traveling together to prosper, as if they become a community of destiny. There must be one of them. If none of the three can provide it, give up. I'm not interested. I'm a person who can't stay any longer. If I stay in one place for too long, I'll go crazy. Gloria declined. This was what Lee Sight was waiting for. Let me tell you first, they are all serious taverns, and I am just making a suggestion. Anyway, there is always a shortage of people on the island. If you want to come, you can always come. I will just leave a way for you with a little effort. There are never too many masters, so I welcome them. Well, I have a heroic adventurer to help me look after the situation, so I can't exploit you harshly. Lee Sight didn't need Gloria's consent at all, just to drive a stake in her heart. Although it was a destination that was not a destination, there was always a destination to choose from. Gloria smiled, and then she felt something was wrong. She coughed and cooled her face, and then she realized what was wrong with Lee Sight. Is he still a master? It's a pity that this scar-faced pirate who is really unpopular. How can you pirates still do business? The tavern. Do you know how to mix drinks? Gloria was speechless. Lee Sight understood that it was 40%. This is the self-confidence that he has brought to himself through the method of freedom. He can cover the sky with one hand and is not afraid of the world overturning. He can cut through eternity with his sword and watch the ups and downs of the era. Not only do you know bartending, but you can also do alchemy. I'm a high-end talent. Do you know the National Academy of Arcane Arts? Do you know the Thief of the Thieves Guild? Lee Sight has completely held back Gloria. Swan, you're the real hero. Inside the cabin passage, outside the mysterious man's room. The atmosphere was extremely depressing, and Swan had not done this kind of work for a while. He stretched his muscles, and his whole body made a crackling sound like fried beans. After imitating Caruso's voice, he knocked on the door and immediately climbed up to the ceiling on all fours, with the claws of his hands and feet embedded in the wood at the same time. Wait for the mysterious man to open the door. It was impossible for Swan to say that it was not important. The matter was closely related. If there was a slight mistake, the privateer's certificate would be ruined, and even if it was taken away, there would be a grudge. Soon there were footsteps coming from inside. As the latch inside was opened, the mysterious man pushed open the door and quietly poked his head out, but only opened a crack. He was very cautious. He was still wrapped in a burqa and wearing a mask. He must have been reminded repeatedly by Caruso and the other two. And Swan has quick eyesight and quick hands. One of the required courses of the Thieves Guild is to train the hand speed of street deception. In the blink of an eye, Swan had sprinkled the special drug into the wet wipes and threw it into the crack of the door. At the same time, he was at the smallest angle. There was a note stuck in the gap. The whole process takes less than 2 seconds and runs smoothly. All you have to do next is wait for the drug to take effect, and you're done. Caruso, The mysterious man looked at no one outside and read in a voice that was softer than a mosquito. He could hear the voice of a 16 or 17-year-old girl. Swan was speechless. "Are you chanting a spell at this volume?" A few seconds passed. Swan calculated the time and found that most of it should have evaporated. The effect was very powerful. He tried on a pirate who was resting during the shift but lacked sleep. He fell down instantly. The woman must have been stunned. That's right. At this time, Swan's chest was aching from the swirling wound cut by Marcus' spiral swordwind. Although no bones were injured, the skin was still torn and it would take some time to fully heal. Swan almost couldn't bear it any longer. The wound was a little cracked and probably bleeding. Micah gave enough margin, but if you inhale too much of this thing, it will kill you. What's wrong with this door? Close the door of death. The mysterious man found that no one was there and was ready to go back. Swan couldn't decide. Maybe this girl really had an extraordinary origin and had a relatively high drug resistance, so he would try some more. Swan opened the bottle and poured out 1/5 of the liquid without wrapping it in a wet towel, spilling it on the floor of the room. The mysterious man was about to burst into tears at this time and remembered Caruso's instructions not to go out. "Please close it." The mysterious man began to check the hinges and hinges of the door to see if there was anything stuck, let alone being unconscious or yawning. Swan was completely numb. What happened? Even if a cow has been put down, what is the background of this woman? Swan couldn't control that much, and now it was extremely critical. If he missed this time, Caruso and Gloria would come back to guard, and there would be no chance. Swan doesn't need to wear the wet mask that Micah mentioned. The Thieves' Guild has a lot of underwater operations and needs to escape through the city's canals. He is practiced and can hold his breath for 5 or 6 minutes. It is not a problem. On top, after pouring them all out, Swan also became ruthless. "Let alone stunning you, I can kill you. If Micah doesn't come back after first aid, at worst, he will kill both Caruso and Gloria, as well as the contact person. So what? 1,002 golden dragons are enough to live in a dream in Tiangua Port. This place is located in the depths of the ocean. No one can reach out. Who dares to push me off the ship with the things I brought? Gems and stone tablets." Swan poured out all the drug and even sprinkled it on the mysterious man's clothes. Anyway, it would evaporate quickly. "Why? I feel so sleepy." The mysterious man felt a little dizzy. C1 is dumbfounded, right? "Sister, can you still withstand this guy?" But it finally lived up to Swan's expectations. The mysterious man held on to the wall for a while and fell down. "Damn it, I've never failed, and I almost ruined you." C1 was furious, fell to the ground nimbly, entered the room without making any sound, and locked the latch. He is currently holding his breath, but he noticed something was wrong. The mysterious man did not look dazed. He was breathing evenly. He was not in the same state as an anesthetized man. He was just in a deep sleep. "Kill me." Swan secretly cursed, but fortunately he was not dead. This was good news. He used all his lifelong learning to carefully put her on the couch without disturbing her. Time is limited. Swan planned to start with a more difficult task and start rummaging through boxes and cabinets. After all, people all look the same. How could you tell your identity and status from your face? You must have documents. Soon, Swan found the place where Caruso and the others used to temporarily store the deeds. There were more than 10 documents inside. Swan inspected it with every eye in 10 lines. Among them is a letter from the Earl of Linden City, which states that the target must be escorted to Lavender Town. He has assigned a notorious pirate group to respond. He also stated that this group of pirates is very powerful and there is no other way. It is the best choice at the moment. He also stated that he must arrive at the port of Heaven by the end of March, when the Duke of Lostra would come to meet him. Swan was a little shocked. Lostra can be said to be the only country in the Western continent that can arm wrestle with the Emperor. End of March? That means that even if you return to Tiangua Port, you will still have to stay for more than half a month. This is good news. You have plenty of time to use your methods. At this time, the mysterious man on the bed turned over. Swan held his breath and wondered, what kind of monster is this? Fortunately, I didn't wake up. He continued to flip through the pages. but no clues were found. They were all Caruso's private documents, and there was a letter from the high priest of the Holy Spirit Church, telling Caruso to do whatever he wanted, and there would always be a place for him in the Holy Spirit Church. There are also letters from some of Caruso's friends. This guy is well-connected and seems to have a good character. Even if he commits such a thing, he is willing to protect him. Damn, this clue is far from enough. Swan had no choice but to focus on the mysterious man himself. He walked over silently and slowly approached the mysterious man's mask with his hand. Then, picked it off. Swan's mind suddenly went blank. He even lost his professionalism, and he let out a few trembling breaths. Boom! Boom! There was a knock on the door from outside. Open the door, I'm back. Caruso's voice rang out. Swan quickly replaced his mask. The mysterious man woke up in a daze and rubbed his eyes. Coming. The mysterious man felt a little strange. He seemed to have dreamed about it just now, but no matter. She went over and pulled the latch. Caruso came back first, and Gloria seemed to have been cast by some kind of spell by Lee's sight, and the conversation was lively. Did you leave the window open? Caruso asked. I just went to bed. Forgot about it. The mysterious man yawned. He didn't know why he felt sleepy. At this time on the deck, Fun looked at Swan, who was in despair, and his lips were pale, and he suddenly felt something bad. He walked up quickly and asked, What's wrong? Is there an accident? Finn also cares about the outcome. No, there was no accident. It went smoothly. This person has no identity. Just because of her existence, Heffin may not be able to eat it. Siwon took a long breath and calmed down. Because the background was too big, BlackSail might not be able to eat it. Even the big boss of Tianguo Port could not eat it. So he decided to go around Lee's sight and tell Fun and ask him. Opinion. Even someone like Lee's sight would probably give up for the sake of safety, but he and Finn couldn't. He wanted to kill Diaz, and Finn wanted to destroy the Magic Energy Industry Committee. They both had big goals to pursue, and they must definitely hold them back. This person is used by BlackSail. What kind of existence is it? Finn's eyelids twitched because Swan never joked. It was late December, the sun was scorching hot, but the sea breeze was bitingly cold. This is not good news, but a bolt from the blue. The Count didn't tell the mysterious person's identity not because he was worried that his group would detain her, but because he didn't dare to take the job, let alone 1,002 gold dragons. Thinking about it now, even if it was 1,002 gold dragons, I would have to reject it on the spot. BlackSail has been pushed into the abyss, and everyone involved in this matter may not end well. But the opposite. As long as it is used well, it can be used as a bargaining chip to join the most terrifying power game in the Western continent. Fenru was in the cold winter with his hands on the guardrail of the ship, and his throat was rolling. After listening to Swan's description, not to mention the boss of Tianguo Port who couldn't eat it, the royal family of the Principality of Bima was choked. Are you sure? Are you sure you saw it right? Finn repeatedly confirmed that Swan might be in an emergency and was dazzled. It's absolutely true. The silver scales, horns, are exactly the same as the humanoid incarnation recorded in the illustrated book. Swan's tone was decisive. Keep your voice down. Don't make any noise. Finn immediately stopped drinking and kept it secret even from the key people on the ship. Swan, who had quit smoking for several years, asked for one from the pirates. He lit it with a match shakily and let out a deep hiss, rolling back and forth in his lungs. This made him feel better. There were too many pirates on the deck controlling the winches, rigging, and sails. The two of them came to the forefront of the bow and stern lines. How to say? Swan couldn't decide whether to tell Lee's sight. Finn also understood what Swan meant. You have just boarded the ship not long ago and have never seen Lee's sight's methods. He is someone who borrows money from loan sharks, but also wants to follow the bets. He is far more ambitious than us. If you tell him the truth, I am also a little unsure. Even Fun was somewhat repelled. His face was extremely solemn and gloomy to the point of dripping water. Oaks, who was at the helm, noticed the movement here. He had been on the ship for 2 years and had never seen Finn so panicked. Something big had happened. Oaks admired a one-eyed pirate and asked him to watch, and the recorder followed up at any time. What's wrong? Oaks probably guessed it. It's the identity of the mysterious man. The captain will tell everyone about the next destination. You don't have to worry about it for now. Finn said calmly. Now that the news is spread, it is easy to cause trouble. Okay, I believe you. Oakes knew very well that Finn was one of the most reliable people on the ship. Although the incident of Swan boarding the ship started to cause trouble, it finally ended with everyone being persuaded. Others, even Lee Sight, would mess up sometimes. This was the case when they were in Secret Harbor. It would be much easier for everyone to chop Marcus into pieces together. Face is important, but not to the point of getting angry. It already had external troubles from the Thieves Guild. When Lee Sight died, there was internal competition for decision-making power. Internal and external troubles arose, and it collapsed. Lee Si has attracted the unstable factor of Morrison, coupled with other means, which shows that Lee Si is very thoughtful in order to consolidate his own decision-making position. Oakes is back at the helm. He has a poker face and is a workaholic. Then I'll go tell Lee Sight. For Swan to defect to Fun, he must agree with him on all positions and act only after obtaining his consent. Finn thought for a moment. I will go with you. Finn thought that Lee Sight's plan was very clever. Fortunately, he didn't kill Gloria Caruso and the other two, so that they could win her into the Paradise Port by following the temptation. Nautical interior. What's the point of being carefree? Sister, you really can tell me. I've never even held a girl's hand when I grew up. It's unopened and brand new from the factory. I just point at some female Holy Spirit to show mercy. Lee Sight is no longer as simple as being shameless. Both sides of his face are like black holes. As long as he falls into the event horizon, no light can escape. Do you think I believe you? I think not only your crew, but also this ship were all deceived by you. Gloria was completely convinced. This person was talking nonsense, and he would be as fake as he wanted. However, there was one person who said that it was a good entertainment. When Finn and Swan came in, Lee Sight was having a fist fight and drinking with Gloria. The two of them were completely in the zone. Lee Sight knew that they were already 50% acquaintances, and now they were acquaintances, looking for an opportunity to upgrade their friendship. Gloria would not refuse with the ruggedness of an adventurer. Swan's fist hardened. Finn took a deep breath. Heffen was about to be fucking wiped out by the group. Why are you still here trying to pick up girls? Finn knocked hard on the door to make some noise. 1525. 15-20-20. You drink. Lee Sight taught Gloria a relatively new way of punching. The two of them were having a great time and were not affected at all. I'm sorry, but can I borrow some time from the captain? Finn had to walk to the long table and slammed the table twice. Oh, please, just go about your business. Gloria was also quite sensible and stood up to leave. What are you busy with? What can happen on this broken ship? Our friendship needs to be upgraded. Lee Sight said shamelessly. There's still time. By the way, I forgot to mention, please tell your crew not to harass me. I don't like men. After Gloria said that, she left the navigation room without looking back and closed the door politely. Lee Sight was petrified in an instant. He doesn't like men. It means lace, right? Then what's the use of wasting so much time on me? He turned into a table cleaning master on the spot and swept away all the pots and pans on the table. Tell me earlier, bastard. Lee Sight is numb, but it doesn't matter. Even if it is crooked, I, Li Shu and Huan, have to straighten it out. Seeing Finn sitting upright, Lee Sight also knew that the big one was coming. Now is not the time to pick up girls. Anyway, there were still 6 Kagome and 6 Kikyo to protect him. Swan leaned close to the door to watch in case anyone eavesdropped. There were only 3 people in the navigation room now, and everyone else was busy. Things are going pretty well. Lee Sight lit a cigarette and smoked it. The port of heaven was far away, and it would take more than 10 days to get there, but naturally the sooner the matter was done, the better. It's a dragon. Finn gets right to the point. No nonsense. What the hell? The bathing center is here, right? What kind of foot bath is there? Lee Sight didn't understand the meaning, so he didn't think about it that way. I mean, physical dragons. Finn thought that sooner or later he would be mad at Lee Sight. You made me laugh. Wasn't it physical or magical? It's a god's fault. Lee Sight was delighted. There was also a saying about a dragon in the Western continent, but the dragon here referred to an emperor-level service, not a set of procedures. I simply don't dare to speculate in such a terrifying direction. Finn closed her eyes. Svan, tell me. Finn was distracted. I went to their room and stunned the woman. The dose was enough to kill several cows, but the monster just fell asleep. I took off her mask. It was almost the same as what I had seen in the illustrated book, with silver dragon horns, which must have been covered up with magic before, but were exposed after falling asleep. There are shining dragon scales under the eyes on both sides, and that kind of terrifying energy aura is absolutely correct. Swan believed in his own eyesight. In this way, it makes complete sense. The Eternal Sect regards the Dragon Lord as the only true dragon, and the existence of other dragons is blasphemy, ushering in the religious party dispute. The dragon bloodline can also pose a threat to the Emperor. All the questions were all solved. The letter found by Swan mentioned that the person who would be delivered to Lostra at the Port of Heaven at the end of March would become a weapon for Lostra to deal with the Emperor. With the support of these theories, 10, 8, or 9, you can't go wrong. Finn tapped 2 fingers on the table, much faster than before, and he was also a little panicked. Lee's sight held it in for a long time, and the cigarette fell to the ground. In the end, he only uttered 2 words. Fuck. When the Emperor destroyed Aram, he killed a dragon in the royal capital. The silver dragon's wingspan spanned more than 10 miles, and there was no cloud in the sky. The sky collapsed, and the earth cracked, and the terror was boundless. This is not unfounded, not just evidence from all sides. And, in today's Yeren imperial capital, there's a longshore square covering an area of 45,000 acres, which was built into the Yala National Museum to demonstrate the majesty of the empire, its long history, enhance national identity, and shock the world. Any good deeds done by the Emperor, such as conquering the great wetlands in the south, retreating the Orc barbarian army from the north, or wiping out the secret witch hunting sites in Old Aram, are all heavily publicized here. And this commercial area with the museum as the center and radiating to the surroundings is based on a huge object as a frame, showing an extremely magnificent style. It is the silver dragon skeleton that has not decayed for thousands of years. The Emperor slays a dragon with his bare hands. The evidence is overwhelming. The most powerful man in the Western continent, he is well-deserved. Nautical interior. The Emperor is a singer. Lee Sight picked up a cigarette from the ground and tried to calm down. Anyway, let's find a time machine first. When he really got into trouble with the most stubborn person, Lee Sight was still a little panicked. Only then did he realize that there was a Bose-level figure who had opened the second stage in the battle at Megon. Lee Sight thought that he had opened it in the wrong way and flipped through the drawer, looking for a blue blanket that had its own operating table and could travel through the time tunnel. Finn began to talk about his speculation. Marcus is very strong, and Zahak is not bad either. It is true that he spent a lot of effort to capture him across the border, but now it seems that the intensity is still not strong enough. Otherwise, we would not be able to carry it down at all. Most of the Emperor does not know about this, and the palace tale cannot be lost, being deceived by powerful ministers with different agendas. Or maybe they don't like him at all. After all, Mr. Long on the ship is still just a child. I read in the library of the college that the life cycle of dragons is extremely long. Without external interference, it is almost equal to a mortal. This dragon is no threat to the Emperor. Finn once read in ancient books that dragons are not creatures in this world, but come from other celestial bodies or alien planes. There was once a warlock who traveled to the outer world and talked about an alien celestial body called Phylong Jailing. It was inhabited by dragons. However, it was just a story, and there was no way to verify it. After listening to Funn's words, Lee's sight felt a little relieved. Fortunately, he was still young. Fortunately, it was also a horoscope system. Otherwise, the Emperor would not be able to get angry on himself. But he must still be young. Otherwise, it would be Marcus' turn to be arrogant. Just seconds. Master? Beautiful girl. I recommend Dragon Lady. The Emperor must be a singer. I will wait for him on Tianguo Gang Street. I will definitely slap him in the face if he doesn't get any good results from him. Lee Sight really couldn't imagine how he could lose. This place was so far away from Yalin. Before the Emperor killed Baima again, he could just take his time. The most important thing is that this matter is highly confidential. When I was discussing the handover with Caruso and I just now, there was a completely trustworthy insider in Yalin who was covering up to confuse the public. No one knew that Long was in Paradise Port, planting a pirate den. Who would believe it? After she had collected the jade of the Four Souls, Long Yang also found a way to grow rapidly. She first killed the most jumping emperor and then skinned the warlock. Out of consideration for her classmates, she left the old classmate to be killed last. The cuckoo of frost cries blood to have a happy time. Wouldn't Mimi return to the earth and give Master One a golden body with incense? What do you mean? Fanthatli's side had made a decision. Private license? It doesn't mean when the war will start. Don't give out money randomly. Isn't it just an annual card for a few years? You don't even want a dog. Dragon Lady, you must push it. You must live well in Tianguo Port. I can't let it. Such an ignorant girl has become a tool used by the cold regime. She will regret for the rest of her life and will continue to kill. I must rescue her. Lee Site's mentality has changed, and this is a righteous statement. Okay, must be rescued. Swan agreed. Diaz has an extremely terrifying status in the underground world of the Western continent. How can he withstand it without some hard goods? Finn was speechless, and Swan was about to get rabies like Ren. I understand what you mean. According to the letter, the people from Lostra will come at the end of March. Even if we go back, we still have time to prepare, so we can consider it in the long term. Since the privateering warrant has been rejected, next time, once we have settled down, we will inform all the backbones and prepare to be the ones to kill Lostra. Then now it's time to consider how to infiltrate Caruso and Gloria. Finn reminded. Lee Site also understands that there are too many unstable factors, and a horoscope has not been revealed yet. The Dragon Lady doesn't recognize this family at all now, so she must be abducted severely. At this time, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Lee Site made a silent gesture. You can go and do whatever you need to do. I will make my own decision. Lee Site stepped forward and opened the door. The person who came was none other than Caruso. Lee Site was a little confused. Why did this man come up again not long after he went down? Could it be that some clues have been discovered? Swan's skills should be fine. Just when Lee Site's heart was in his throat. I would like to ask if there's more food. The three of us have quite a lot to eat. Even though Caruso asked this question, he felt a little embarrassed. It was too embarrassing. He was reduced to such a situation that he had to ask for food from others. It wasn't that he didn't have any money. It was just that he was at sea. This girl was injured. Otherwise, she wouldn't need to be escorted. She didn't eat anything all the way here. Now she is completely relaxed, and all her saved appetite has been whetted. But people under the roof can only ask for help from others. Lee Site was devastated. He thought something was wrong. He had this little thing in mind. In order to confirm the authenticity, he had to deceive him. The food on the ship is rationed, so it must be planned well enough to last until the next transfer station. Lee Site made things difficult for Caruso. Caruso is a dignified person. Seeing what Lee Site said, he had no choice but to feel sorry for the girl and said no more. But these are all distinguished guests who have come from afar. We must not lose our etiquette. Although letting the cook on the ship run a small stove will cause some dissatisfaction among other crew members, it can only be like this. But I also have a better way. I'm just aggrieved. You guys, you could go to the warehouse and get some more dried bacon and lettuce at once, but they're not very tasty. Lee Site gave him two choices while capturing Caruso's expression. No matter how smart a person is, he can't hide his psychological emotions for a moment. Then I won't bother the chef and just get more bacon. I don't need the lettuce. I don't bother you anymore. Caruso didn't hesitate at all, as if he was relieved. He didn't even realize that he had been deceived by Lee Site. Okay, I will ask the big lizard to find someone to deliver it to you later. I will also add some spices to make it a little more delicious. The conditions at sea are harsh. If you have any bad reception, just tell me and I will try to improve it if I can. Lee Site is quite generous. I really don't know how to thank you. Caruso knew very well that what these pirates did in the port was to risk their lives, and the people of Los Stella would have to be rewarded heavily with money. Otherwise, they would not give up. Lee Site already knew in his mind that it was 100% that the Dragon Lady didn't run away. Swan's brows widened. Lee Site, was the kind of person who could play a game of power. 6 days later, there is only 1 day's voyage to the next destination. Before that, the dividends must be completed not only for the core members, but also for the crew. It is estimated that it will take 2 to 3 days to purchase supplies at the transfer station from placing an order to loading, and then it will go directly to Tiangwa port. During the time spent at the base, these pirates had no money to spend, so they couldn't help but get sick. In the navigation room, including the newly boarded Claude, all 12 key members are present. Finn wears glasses, holds a ledger, and is reading from the script. The crew pension of 8 golden dragons was deducted from public funds and sent to Antalicia in Maple Leaf Town. Finn didn't finish. It will not be taken from public funds. This matter was not discussed. It will be taken from my private pocket. Lee Sight took out the money from his pocket and lined it up on the table. He didn't care about these 8 golden dragons now. They were all going to kill the people who would become immortals on the Yalan Dominion continent. As long as the money was enough, it would be enough. Finn didn't say much. He took the money and put it into public funds. Lee Sight's mentality changed, and his appetite also grew. 8 golden dragons were actually not a small number anymore. He had to drag the suicidal pirate on the ship to the Justice Department. Received. For other crew members, you have to make some big achievements before you go to great lengths to send money to your family. If you are a disabled or amputated person, they will be awarded 3 to 10 gold dragons based on a comprehensive evaluation of their merits and qualifications. For the fee, please disembark. Okay, then this expense has been deducted. Finn crossed it out on the account book with a pen and continued to add. The current net income is 1,230 gold dragons. According to the rules, 200 gold dragons will still enter the public account. Go up. Each person can get 85 gold dragons and 166 silver coins for the remaining money, and the last 8 silver coins will also be included in public funds. Haywood Toolman had already packed the money bags one by one and handed them out. Finn asked everyone to count them to see if the number was correct. Each bag is bulging with gold and silver coins, and the ropes are all golden when you open them. At this time, Claude was no longer more haggard than when he met him in Linden City, running around on the sea, looking at a large bag of money with mixed feelings. You won't be sent to hell if you use this. In fact, Morrison couldn't find any place to spend money. He was defeated at the blacksmith shop, but he never spent any extra money mixed with magic stones or other fancy things, and the money he spent was limited. He still has more than 60 gold dragons saved. Plus here, it's over 100. The goal is to kill 10,000 people. Micah just didn't know if his body could hold on. He was no longer as strong as when he first became a pirate. If he just played with high-quality prostitutes who cost about 30 copper coins each time, he calculated that with this money alone, he would already have enough money. Far beyond expectations. I just signed up as a member of this BlackSail Pirates group. As soon as I came in, I saw such a high dividend. In this impetuous society, there's still such a big job to be done calmly. I was really touched. Ren cried with joy, but it was fake. Who asked you? Lee Sight was impatient. He didn't expect that one day he would be attacked. Since the amount this time set a new record, even a group of desperados who had seen the big scene were slightly excited. After dividing the spoils, if anyone has any suggestions or dissatisfaction with this delivery, you can raise them. Finn put the ledger on the table for everyone to look at. The rules have been set for a long time, and no one said anything. Archer, do you have any comments? Finn looked at Archer speechlessly. There was a dragon on the boat now, and this guy's brain was still a mess. Archer held his head up in a daze, drunk and tongue-tied. Ah, have you gone ashore? As if he felt a little more awake, he drank a few more sips, looked at the money bag in front of him, and suddenly started to cry, tears streaming down his face. Lee Sai took a deep breath. This was even louder than Do-E's movement. I have to get on the boat, someone who can fight on time. This Weinmungzi is capable of killing people to a certain extent, but he can't do it alone in big occasions. In addition to his superb cooking skills, I wish he would die. He really hates dogs. You should rest. Fun continued to add, since there is no objection, then this matter is over. The next step is to discuss the issue of sailors' dividends. The public funds of 400 gold dragons, except for the 15 gold for buying horses in Lavender Town Dragon, purchase spare canvas, wood, medicine, vegetables, bacon, livestock. Finn started to read the names of the dishes. Hey, you guys can do whatever you want. I just agreed. Ren was the first to speak. This part was the most annoying and the most pressing. Okay, excluding the above-mentioned purchased items and the basic salary of a sailor, the balance of public funds is 316 gold dragons. The current dividend strategy is that each pirate will receive a dividend of 1 gold dragon and 20 silver coins, and intercept and kill the enemy in Lavender Town. He contributed the most, and many brothers died. There will be extra dividends based on the spoils of war. Who is in favor of it, and who is against it? Finn asked. No one said anything and didn't really care. Okay, no one objects. The second officer and Haywood will pay the sailors dividends and basic salary. And then, let's break up the meeting. As for the dragon matter, we will have a separate meeting tomorrow to discuss it. On deck, a rotten wooden table was set up, and now there were rules. Instead of crowding around like eating, for fear of not getting money, everyone was like a pace setter. The team was neat and uniform, and the tactics were black-faced. Lisite was dumbfounded. How could he really be disciplined? You're the sous chef. You have a pair of ears, 2 gold dragons, and 30 silver coins. Take them. You are unemployed and did not go to the interception battle. 1 gold dragon and 28 silver coins. Take it. As a tool man, Haywood looked at the crew files, counted the loot, and read it like a machine with a numb and emotionless stick. Only those who have killed people in interception battles. I remember what they looked like and how many enemies there were at that time. If anyone comes to make up for the loss, I will kill them directly. Oaks was just calming down. Under the deterrent power of this iron tower, no one dares to mess around. A cyclops with a scar on his left eye and a cloudy cyan iris came to the table. His hair on both sides was shaved short, and his light blonde hair was spread loosely. He had 3 heads and 3 armbands. Your current position is to lead 10 men, right? 7 golden dragons and 40 silver coins. Take it. Haywood was a little surprised. This one-eyed man was a bit fierce, as if he had been the helmsman of another ship. Everyone else was in an uproar. This guy could buy a house without a living room in a big city with good security. Thanks. The one-eyed dragon took the money and put in the bag very politely. Thank you for what you deserve. It was the first time Oaks had seen such a person. No, I know that BlackSail is one of the most ruthless pirate groups in the Eastern Sea. If you can work on this ship, you will have a bright future. The one-eyed dragon told the truth. Really, Oaks was non-committal. Unexpectedly, this man was quite ambitious, and he was more considerate. Next one. Lisite got tired after watching it for a while. There were too few entertainment activities on the ship. At this time, Gloria happened to go up to the deck to get some air, but it was too stuffy down there. Lisite knew it and started. Lisite has ordered others not to harass Gloria anymore, because Gloria is a lesbian and will only arouse her disgust. He himself no longer insisted. From now on, everything would be dominated by Dragon Lady, who had to be kidnapped. We will arrive at the transfer station tomorrow. You could take your family member to the shore to take a bath or something. Women have many inconveniences at sea. Of course, it is only limited to pirate ships. If it is a passenger ship, it will be much more comfortable. Lisite looked for a topic. The Firmat King's Revenge circled the Heavenly Kingdom port in a U-shape. During the process, it had to pass a trading island on the continent where the YS people were located, which was almost half of the way. It's hard to imagine how fierce the Emperor was back then. He just used the Celestial Port as a stronghold and tried to conquer the far eastern islands. He also successfully conquered several countries as a bridgehead. It was truly a divine soldier descending from the sky. Is it a transit station? Maybe there are Syrians ambushing us. Woolman came over at some point, his tall body blocking the light. There are good luck words again. Morrison sharpened his knife with a whetstone and said with a smile, "Sister, brother knows that you like women. Why don't you change it?" Ren spoke in a pornographic accent. Siadi was silently pretending to be cool, showing off his handsomeness, waiting for Gloria to be straightened naturally and get her in a bed. Lee Sight was distracted. Although the intensity of harassment was reduced, he was still willing to deal with beautiful women. Who could be a serious person who would be brothers with a bunch of low EQ fugitives covered in scars and bullet holes every day? Gloria suddenly felt a little guilty. Although each of these pirates was more shameless than the last. After this period of time, she found that they actually did not plunder the villages and towns along the coast. Taking out their reward orders, there was no crime of causing harm to the village. The other charges seemed terrifying, such as killing a whole family, but they seemed to be members of a cult. You must know that most pirates make a living by robbing merchant ships with weak protection and robbing homes and homes. This is the most secure way. This group of people has a rare bottom line. According to the standards of adventurers, although they are not good people, they are not unscrupulous guys. I thought that pirates could kill people without restraint and throw them away, but I didn't expect this to happen. It will be difficult for those who are involved in this matter to die well. They may be able to live happily for a while relying on commissions, but they will be destitute. Although if you escape now, you will be safe for at least a few months, but someone will definitely come back in the future. He did not hesitate to die because of his hatred of the emperor, but Caruso sacrificed himself because of his faith to fight against the ever-expanding eternal sect. But these people were kept in the dark. Suddenly Gloria felt a little sad, because she has no basic knowledge. Lee Sight only plays with reality and makes big money. How many poor people can make money? Lee Sight also planned to kill all the people brought by Luz, earn the Dragon Lady on board the ship, and then stay in Paradise Harbor for more than half a year. It's so scary outside now. Bounty Hunters, Navy, Thieves Guild, Alan, Lostra is coming soon. Geisha, embarrassment of embarrassment. Only the center of the universe, the port of heaven, is our eternal home. Everyone, can you go aside? I'm talking to this lady about business. Lee Sight said solemnly, now it's really business. You're exploiting me as a captain, aren't you? I'm a member of Galagia. Ren, remember the word. Goddamn gulag. Do you know what a gulag is? Lee Sight was distracted. Of course, Ren knew that every time Lee Sight met those landlords or nobles, he would say something, which almost meant that. Anyway, there's only one seat in the private room. Ren thinks that Lee Sight wants to monopolize Gloria, which completely breaks the rules on the ship. Women are common, but Gloria is not. This is the only thing that cannot be compromised. Otherwise, the crew will vote to impeach you. Lee Sight was really speechless, so he took this opportunity to send someone to find Claude. Now that the knight's money had arrived, it was time to officially take office. What's the matter? Claude arrived in a hurry and did not dare to neglect. He had already boarded the pirate ship and had divided the stolen goods. There was no way back. In order to take care of the emotions of the other core members, Lee Sight did not tell Claude about the gems and stone tablets. It was unreasonable for an outsider to enjoy the results just after he arrived. As a captain, he didn't understand this, so there was no need to be a captain. We have to wait at least another half year, 8 months, but we can tell what happened along. After all, with Claude's help, he protected the injured people, and he can convince the public. Starting from today, Ren's position as bosun will be removed, and you will be the bosun. Although List guessed that Ren would not refute, as this guy likes to be lazy and take advantage of the situation, he was still a little unsure. Everyone wanted to have more say on the ship. Awesome. Let's unload the sail length. I want to be a shipwright with Xiadi and look after the warehouse with Woolman. Ren looked at Lee Sight with longing eyes. He had long since stopped doing such a boring job. Morrison, Woolman, and Xiadi. These three were the most leisurely on the ship. No, you are still the master of the rigging, and all the sailors and winchmen are in your charge. Lee Sight is ashamed. I know you have no ambition. Why the hell are you so hopeless? Originally, Ren had 2 jobs, and he was only a bosun. He had never practiced piracy, nor had he solved any conflicts among the crew, let alone listen to the crew's difficulties. How could Mr. Ren have that time? But the life of the long sail is going smoothly, so I can continue to work. Although Woolman and Oakes were both people who led soldiers in wars, the races of these 2 monsters are different from humans. Although there are various races among the pirates, overall they are still half-human race, which makes Claude its most suitable to practice here. If you can train 100 clouds, it won't be worth your money. Isn't it the same whether I take it off or not? Rin was speechless. What a shame, you know. Lisite immediately announced the news on the deck. As the saying goes, don't be afraid of officials, just be afraid of management. All the pirates cast friendly glances at their new immediate boss, and some cheerful people even pretended to imitate the Navy's salute. Bosun, what exactly do you want to do? Claude asked, a little confused. He had never done it before. The daily logistics of all the crew members, and occasionally they can practice combat matters. It can be said to be very busy, or it can be said to be very idle. You used to be a big shot. I believe in your ability. Lisite patted Claude's shoulder. There were more than 80 golden dragons in one order. Although Claude was still not used to being a pirate for the first time, he had already figured it out. Let me give it a try, Claude said calmly. Lisite understands that anyone who does not guarantee the truth and speaks the truth has more or less two brushes. Lisite spent a lot of effort to drive away all the hobmeat surrounding Gloria, and he was really convinced. You still look like a captain. Although Gloria has listened to Lisite bragging these days, whether it is one-on-one with Marcus in the secret port or being the leader in such a group of people, she is capable. Lisite planned to return to Tianguo Port, find a waitress in his shop, marry Gloria, and keep her so that he could control Dragon Yang. Through this heart-to-heart talk, he now knows that Gloria has nowhere to go after finishing this order. Seriously, how about I act as a matchmaker for you when you get to Tianguo Port, introduce a good girl, and do some work for me? Lisite was making insinuations. At least 2 of them should be introduced. Gloria answered casually. Lisite, the plan is to show his face just like this, slowly eroding the psychological defense line. Western part of the Principality of Bima. Huge walled moat. Here, there is a stunning scenery. It is not a natural mountain range, but a huge man-made wall from an ancient era that has been lost to history. There are extremely obvious traces of artificial construction. Its origin cannot be traced and has become an unsolvable mystery. The huge wall spreads horizontally for dozens of miles, hundreds of feet high and hundreds of meters wide. It is the only passage blocking the steep mountain passes on both sides. If you want to get from the interior to the Principality of Bima, this is the only way. Otherwise, you have to climb over the snow-capped mountains with an altitude of tens of thousands of meters. Among these mountains, it is extremely cold and has the lowest altitude. The place is also 4 to 5 kilometers away and is inhabited by various dangerous monsters. It is completely a restricted area for humans. This kind of danger also made the Principality of Bima its own country and was not divided into provinces by the emperor. Although the emperor once asked Bima's brain-dead puppet king to cede the giant wall to Aram. But no matter how stupid he is, he still refuses decisively. Anyone who can do 1 + 1 math problems can think clearly. If you give armor to others to wear, then you're not allowed to be hung up and beaten. The emperor never expected that the thing he had supported would dare to betray the enemy. However, it was a terrifying military budget. As the status of the military and police officers in the empire increased, the military expenditures required also increased. It's getting more and more exaggerated. Even if he dominates this place, it will take many years of operation to make back the money. After weighing it, he will let him do whatever he wants for the time being. After all, the coinage rights have been robbed, and you still have to pay taxes. The huge wall is completely white, but after years of care by local people, the appearance has become green and covered with many deciduous vines, which is quite spectacular. The most amazing thing is that as early as the ancient era, countless passages, stairs, and stone chambers were carved out of the giant wall, which could accommodate millions of people. Scholars have inferred from its internal structure and the transverse rectangular skylight that it was once used as a military fortress. Of course, the scholar was sprayed with blood. What he said was complete nonsense, because the Principality of Bima is also stationing 100,000 troops here at this moment, ready to prepare. Due to the close trade between the East Coast and the far eastern islands, this giant walled city has also become full of vitality and has become a resting place for traders. There are many taverns open near the pass, and competition is extremely fierce. The Principality of Pema can not only earn tariffs from land freight merchants from the Giant Wall, but also earn tariffs from sea freight merchants on the East Coast. It is simply like Qin Shi Huang and clones riding on a rocket, winning at both ends. A city with giant walls. In a tavern. The decoration style here makes YSNV feel like she has returned hundreds of years ago. The stone benches and stone tables, except for the chandeliers and fireplaces that have some contemporary aesthetics, focus on an original ecology. The YS daughter Jean Meir has never seen Zahak look so embarrassed. I found him on the road from Linden City to Lavender Town. He had completely lost his strength, fell to the roadside, bleeding in a pool, and was seriously injured. It took a doctor from the gendarmerie to provide first aid for a whole night, and then he was saved from death. His whole body was covered with open flesh, knife wounds, and crossbow wounds. It was hard to imagine what kind of enemy he had encountered. He was still wearing a bandage, and a wound on his face had become a permanent mark, making his face suddenly become ferocious. Stand up. Zahak was drinking to drown his sorrows at this time. Received a letter from the military police guard's Falcon. Zahak no longer needs to return to the imperial capital. He has been demoted 2 levels in a row. Now he is Lieutenant Zahak. He will be assigned to a small border town to engage in paperwork for the recruitment of gendarmerie personnel. This life is already wasted. Even the sword was taken away. Zahak laughed loudly and drank heavily. It was a gift from his teacher to teach him. How could he have the face to face the Sword King of Allen? How dare you say that you are that adult student? Jean Meir didn't care. Although she was demoted to the lowest level of military police, she was sent along with Zahak. Zahak always had the skills and could make a comeback. Don't think like that. This is only temporary. When a number of people on the peak is insufficient, we will be transferred back. Jean Meir comforted. There are so many talented people in Aram. Everyone is climbing up. Once my position becomes vacant, someone will immediately take it. Unless we encounter a big defeat and are in urgent need of manpower, you and I will never stand up. But that's not easy. The Emperor rules the Western continent and rarely loses a battle. It's over. Everything is over. Zahak smiled bitterly and asked the waiter for another round of wine. In that case, we can only live an ordinary life. Piapan is also dead, so the two of us can live together. Jean Meir blushed a little, lifted a strand of hair, and put it behind her ear. It seems that he has bottomed out and his fighting spirit has been aroused. Determined not to do this, Zahak will do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. No matter how shameless he is, he can only ask his teacher. Even if he stays with his teacher as a follower, it is better than working as a clerk for several years. Let's go back to the imperial capital. I want to find the teacher. Zahak made up his mind. He already had a goal. If he wanted to kill the BlackSail minion of the royal guards, his current ability alone was not enough. In this case, it would be no problem to use that disfigured face as a stepping stone to kill him and kill his father-killing enemy. At this moment, in Aram, William is now a court sorcerer and train operator with an unparalleled reputation. In those days, he was an engineering boy who was ignored in school, and he always ate at parties, so he had no chance of entering the bedroom with girls. And now, the luxurious bedroom is larger than my living room. The furniture is all made of high-grade wood. Both the decoration style and the soft furnishings are the combinations made by top designers who have revised the plans countless times. Now he wants wind and rain. But there is such a thing as human beings. I've always been troubled by the things I couldn't get when I was young. Now William has found the goddess he had in college through his own status. But unfortunately, even with his current power, he cannot force her, and neither can the warlock. Sharon, who is extremely smart, chose the religious leader of the Western continent to protect herself. She had joined the Order of Eternity as a nun many years ago. In the Western continent, no one dares to touch anyone from the Eternal sect, even a nun. But today, William got an opportunity to communicate with the priest of the Eternal sect. Of course, he did not disdain the priest at all. Everything he did was just for the priest's entourage, Sharon. He looked at himself in the full-length mirror, looking graceful and luxurious, wondering if this outfit was to Sharon's liking. Noon. The priest arrived as promised and chose to meet at the most upscale restaurant in the city. He was accompanied by 2 nuns, both wearing black clergy clothes and nun hats, which added a bit of forbidden desire, at least for William. Say so. During William's conversation, his mind was entirely focused on Sharon. Her pair of blue eyes, short light blonde hair, extremely pretty face, and proud figure were absolutely beautiful no matter where she was placed. Soon there was an opportunity. The priest had to go to the bathroom. Sharon, before William could finish speaking. Sharon once found a reward notice during a church visit to the Principality of Bema, and she recognized who it was. In fact, she always knew where Lee's site was and what he had done, and she was paying close attention silently. Sorry, I'm not interested in traitors and cowards. I only like real men. Waste is always just waste, even if the environment changes. Sharon could see that William had dressed up carefully. It was really disgusting. He had no basic common sense at all. What he got in exchange for betrayal would only make him look even uglier. Even a priest comes back from the bathroom. Sharon also made no secret of her disdain for William, her blue eyes full of contempt. In the northern prison, hundreds of students who were transferred here from the Dark Matter Underground Research Institute were abused by the Warlock and were treated as experimental materials and locked up in the dungeon, just like livestock. 42 people died. The reason Sharon remembered them so clearly was because they were dissected, humiliated, and disemboweled in various ways by the Warlock, as if they were wild animals. And in order to experiment with magic techniques, extremely horrific methods were used, and he was tortured to death. Everyone dies differently. Although it is a bit vicious to say this, fortunately, the Warlock captured various races from multiple planes and different dimensions. If there were only students like himself, he would probably have killed them all. A week's time, everyone was trapped in that cold winter land for a full week. While the Warlock was away, if it weren't for Lee's sight and the other 4 seniors, everyone would have ended up there in an extremely tragic way. That scene was so profound that I still feel scared when I think about it now. A senior man tricked the sorcerer's apprentice into coming to the iron fence. Lee's sight and the 4 seniors' reserved physical strength exploded in an instant. They used the chains on their hands to twist the apprentice's head and limbs, nearly dismembering him, and strangled him alive in front of the iron fence. Just got the key. After going out, I found that this place was at the bottom of a large prison. I knew that people like them could not escape by themselves. After observing the Warlock for a week, he found a bottle of highly corrosive medicine and released all the felons in the prison. It was too chaotic. Jailers and criminals fight together. Many schoolmates also died during the escape, their flesh and blood dripping with blood and their internal organs bursting. In the end, they were all separated in complete chaos in the snowy winter in the north, and their whereabouts are unknown. And now, William actually obeyed the orders of such a person and hunted down his classmates. If he hadn't been smart enough to join the Eternal Sect, his fate would have been hard to say. Sharon was not the lowest nun. Those who can attend with the priest are all high-level clergymen, and her status is only one step below the priest. In a high-end restaurant, there are musicians playing music, and the low-decibel ambient sound is extremely comfortable. Each seat is far apart, so the voices will not affect each other. The people who come here are all upper-class people and will not make any noise without quality. Finally, William couldn't stand the contempt anymore, and perhaps it was more the shame in his own heart that he became angry. You're such a bitch. You've slept with so many people anyway, and you've given the green light all the way, and you still think you're noble? In front of the priest, William cursed at Sharon, which was unbearable. Snap! A big mouth slapped William on the face. It was drawn by the priest. How presumptuous. I didn't expect you to be such a rude person. I'm sorry. The priest has served the Dragon Lord all his life and has no children. He has never seen someone as smart as Sharon. He treats her like his daughter. Originally, this time he was talking to William about the trial operation of the train, which must be in all carriages. Engraved with the Dragon Lord's seal, it was the Dragon Lord who led the changes of the times. I didn't expect this to happen. I will go back and report to the bishop. If we cannot sincerely apologize, the railway will not be able to operate." The priest put down these words and left, asking for at least 50,000 gold dragons as an apology. Even if he is the emperor, he still wants to compare with the pope. I don't know what this person is. Sharon knew very well that William was really a brainless person who couldn't distinguish between important things and minor things regardless of the situation. The real enemy was far from him. He was just a clown who was pushed to the surface. She only worried that there would be others. Other former classmates worked for the warlock and were hiding in the dark. William studied highly sophisticated theoretical physics, but his practical application was far behind. He was just a person who could solve problems, while others were making suggestions. "You are the stupidest person in school, as expected." After Sharon left these words, she left without looking back. The furious William was left behind, because even as a traitor, he turned out to be the most useless one. Sharon and the priest returned to the local church. The priest received the report from the imperial capital headquarters, and even his fingers were trembling. "What happens?" Sharon asked with concern. "Dragon Lord, the saint has appeared." A member of the church who was sent to a foreign country risked his life and returned to his youthful appearance of 20 years old. "In my lifetime, I can actually see such a miracle. Return to the imperial capital immediately. I want to come and watch the ceremony." The priest actually burst into tears. Sharon's eyes widened. Although there had been so-called manifestations before, they were only weak reminders, and some small tricks could be done. It actually existed. Dragon Lord? The next day, it was near noon. The Furmak King's Revenge is about to reach its final destination for purchasing rations. Micah was one-on-one with the real man Lee Sight on the bow of the boat. Both of them were smoking cigarettes and having a crazy duel. "Are you worthy? Are you worthy? Are you worthy?" The two have repeated it no less than 100 times, arguing about Gloria's right to sleep with her. Fum was dumbfounded. It was a real Bloodborne DLC, an abstract chaos. "Marcus is so fierce. There must be 3 fucking stages." Rin said abruptly from the side. "You're such a loudmouth. Can you say something auspicious?" "We're almost ashore." Lisa wanted to beat someone up. The outline of land has appeared in the distance, and there are ships all around. Transfer station, Kursana Island. Located in the northeastern part of the southern continent, it guards the main routes and is also a very prosperous city. The route from Linden City to Tianhua Port is U-shaped, and this midway island is where Lee Sight most often stays. Lee Sight had never done anything wrong on the territory of the Isu people, and rabbits knew not to eat grass near their nests. BlackSails can safely dock at the island's official port. Although this world also has the concepts of United Nations and Interpol, which are called cross-alliances, they only mean that much. Theoretically speaking, for some international disputes or influential cross-border criminal gangs, the case must be resolved in the cross-alliance, which belongs to the county government. But anyone who understands knows that to properly solve a case, you must deal with the Yalan Shangfeng, which is the Tea Lecture Hall. Of course, it cannot be said that the cross-alliance is useless. It is, but only a little bit. It can indeed mediate disputes between small countries. As for arresting transnational criminal gangs, half of the energy and resources are consumed by the bottomless pit of the Thieves' Guild. The cross-alliance also has a special pirate picket organization, but it is just a name to show that it has added this skill point. The only way to catch pirates is by the local admiral. There are 2 situations on the shore and at sea. Outside the Western continent, no one is defying the cross-alliance. The big stage of the East China Sea. Come if you're determined to do so. It's more satisfying to die. It's really comfortable to kill. Lee Sight and the port manager of Kelsino Island, who are old acquaintances from the Cannibal Tribe barbecue, gave 2 golden dragons and asked the brothers to close one eye and stay for 2 days without causing trouble. No question, but also increase local trade tax to make a contribution. The climate here is tropical, with summer all year round and extremely hot. The coastal environment is also full of tropical-style palm plants, full of greenery, clear water, and blue sky, and the port is extremely hot and busy with traffic. The southern continent is the territory of the YS people. This high-looking race retains some animal characteristics, including animal ears and tails, weird hair colors, and three-dimensional facial features. All of them look like characters in a certain tower defense game. The proportion of ISU people on this island is quite small, less than 1/10. This is an important route, with people coming and going, taverns, hotels, and brothels. There are too many people coming here to do business, which seriously crowds out the locals. Market. Lee Sight first came over in a small boat with wood pulp and took care of the master of the maritime department here. The Furmat King's Revenge parked openly on the port pier, inconspicuous among the hundreds of cargo ships and passenger ships. In the meeting just now, I have told all the key people about Dragon Yang, but these people's reaction is that there is no reaction. That is to say, several key members headed by Run refused to disembark even if they were beaten to death. They would not step ashore before returning to Tianghua port. Lee Sai believes that some overreactions are normal and will get better as time goes by. The others, Woolman and Oakes, stayed on board and stood there, conspicuous by their size. Morrison can be regarded as the signature character of BlackSail's besides Woolman, the super dark guy. This disfigured half of his face also had more than 10 diagonal scars cut by self-inflicted wounds. It is so iconic that it is also included in the reward order. The painting looks like a ghost. It's extremely scary. Don't go out. These skeletons cannot be released, but the pirates who have worked exhaustingly for nearly 10 days on the ship must be released. On the trestle, the waves are sparkling, people are coming and going, and workers loading and unloading goods are rubbing shoulders. The pirates who came down the gangway of the black sailboat walked to the shore in great excitement, talking and laughing. Their expressions were either bad or extremely vulgar. It was self-evident what they were going to do next. Finn had to get off the ship and was responsible for placing orders and arranging for people to assemble supplies. Master Xiadi is still as handsome as before. Li Sight couldn't help but said, "Only Xiadi dare to come out of this stall." He was blocked by dozens of people with machetes in Tianghua port. He is the kind of person who accepts his fate, spreads his hands, and lets you do whatever you want. The character who is killed is now so quiet that he almost becomes a fairy. At this time, on the pier, a man and a woman stepped out from a luxury passenger ship. They were both talented and well-dressed. They were from a wealthy family, probably traveling to this southern country. They were followed by servants carrying luggage. A woman's brown wavy hair should be as beautiful as possible. Once she wears a light yellow skirt and a sun hat, she will look so radiant. At the foot of Zhongnan Mountain, the tomb of the living dead, Li Sight muttered, "The couple of Condor heroes disappeared from the world?" Xiadi tried. No, a single man of good quality applied to fight. Li Sight was so jealous that his face twisted. In the end, Li Qian turned into a butterfly, and there are no more Reebok shoes in the world. Micah's voice came. "Ah." Li Sight glanced at Micah, who suddenly appeared next to him. "Huh? God turns into a fucking butterfly, do you understand? As the person with the second-to-last combat power among the backbone, how dare you come out of this stall?" Micah looks weak, but is actually a little stronger than Haywood. Although he is a doctor, he also has the ability to settle down and survive. Tomorrow's arc start. Micah's great career is much more important than his life. The money he carries can be said to be a nouveau riche. He will not look down on the lesser ones. He has to be a minstrel with an agent who is both virtue and art. Although the Yinyushi is a serious profession, it is not completely serious. It is not the auxiliary profession that you imagine to give you a talisman to kill monsters beautifully, but as a high-end social butterfly and a socialite in the upper class. In short, that is a prostitute hired by a noble. Those who haven't made it out usually sing in various pubs, and those who can afford the price will perform. Those who are capable and want to be an entertainer in a high-end venue must be considered a golden dragon. It's not just about giving money. They still have to carry it and may not pay it out. The strongest king can even become a talking point for the first-class nobles to show off, and they can brag about it for months even if they have a meal together. For example, Chili, a well-known musician, is worth tens of thousands of gold dragons, and even the earls with fiefdoms do not want to get involved. She is a star figure who appeared in the mainland martial arts performance in September of this year. A broken heart. Where can I find a rich brother in the world? Lee Sight had to accept it. Micah really did not forget his original intention and returned to his original nature. At this time, Gloria Caruso and Dragon Lady also went out. There are many inconveniences for women at sea. Gloria, a pretty girl, has become quite haggard in the past few days. If she doesn't take a shower, she will be in a high-end hotel on the shore. After a night's rest on a soft bed, I felt exhausted. At this time, Dragon Lady was still wrapped thickly in a black robe. Her dragon horns were also covered with magic, and she was wearing a mask. I asked Claude to follow you. Lee Sight suggested that although this place is far away from Alan's sphere of influence, it still has to be guarded against. No need. Caruso and I's injuries are almost healed. Gloria refused. Okay then. If we hurry, we can set off the day after tomorrow and come back then. Lee Sight said no more. Gloria nodded. Watching the group of people go away, Lee Sight quickly ordered a pirate to go to the ship and call Swan down. Although he was not afraid of these people running away, he still had to keep an eye on them. C1 is doing things. Lee Sight is relieved. Everything was arranged, and Lee Sight had some private time. Suddenly, the large incision across the middle of his nose started to hurt. Lee Sight had a headache and stopped thinking about what happened in the first 3 years. He actually only served as a pirate for 7 years. Without that incident, he wouldn't be where he is today. I don't know where the others are now, whether they have become bandits like me, or whether they have become gangsters like William. I didn't expect that such an honest and responsible person as William would become like this. Playing with Genshin Impact, Lee Sight said to himself, "It's better to be careful. BlackSail is almost becoming an abstract studio." Finn complained, taking the bald man with tattoos to replenish supplies. Forehead, Lee Sight was speechless. After thinking for a while, he was ready to take Xia Di and his 2 brothers to have a cool time. Micah was Lee Sight's earliest partner, followed by Xia Di. The reason why Lee Sight arranged the position of shipwright for Xia Di was to take care of him. Let Haywood, the tool man, do the work and just have fun. Are you a prostitute or not? Lee Sight asked coldly, although Xia Di didn't like this. Why has she changed her mind after so many years? And you? Xia Di had a question mark on her face. I'm a gentleman. Okay, I'm just asking for your opinion. So just have fun and have a small gamble. Lee Sight didn't know what to do. He earned more than 900 gold dragons that time and spent the rest of his life in Tianguo Port. He wasn't very interested in anything. The 2 went to a local casino. Less than half an hour, Xia Di lost 3 golden dragons. Lee Sight lost the hardware dragon. I'll kill you. Xia Di really regretted coming with Lee Sight. If he came with C1, he would have earned 10 gold dragons to go back. Forehead, Lee Sight was speechless. Why was his luck so bad? At this time, I heard someone gossiping in the casino. Recently, a gangster was caught here. He was a serious criminal who escaped from the northern prison 10 years ago and was arrested again. What about you? Xia Di noticed that Lee Sight had something wrong with his expression. Fuck, I met that guy 10 years ago.